In this video, I'll be explaining the entire timeline of the Marvel Cinematic Universe in chronological order, covering every major event from the cosmic birth of the universe itself all the way through the multiverse breaking events of Phase 4. This timeline focuses on major film and Disney Plus series releases, excluding shorts, one-shots, and tie-in comics, unless directly referenced as critical to the main narrative, which means we're looking at over 30 films and several key Disney Plus shows that form the backbone of Marvel's interconnected storytelling. As always, throughout the video, there will be a timeline animation at the bottom of the screen, so you can easily follow along and understand exactly when each event takes place, whether we're talking about events billions of years in the past or the present day battles that reshape reality. Now, here's something that might surprise you. The MCU's chronological beginning isn't with Captain America or Iron Man, but billions of years before the universe even existed as we know it, with the formation of cosmic entities and powerful artifacts that would eventually determine the fate of every living being across all of space and time. Without further ado, let's start with the very beginning. In the beginning, there was nothing. No light, no matter, no time, only an endless void, an absolute absence that defied comprehension. Then, approximately 13.8 billion years ago, everything changed in an instant. And from that cosmic explosion, six singularities emerged. These were not ordinary matter or energy. They were concentrations of fundamental aspects of existence itself, each representing a different dimension of reality: space, time, power, reality, mind, and soul. These six singularities contained within them the very essence of what would become the universe. As the universe expanded and cooled in those first fractions of a second, these singularities crystallized. They were forged by the immense energies of creation into six gemstones, each one glowing with a distinct color and containing unfathomable power. The space stone, blue as the infinite cosmos; the time stone, green as the flow of moments; the power stone, purple as raw destructive force; the reality stone, red as the fabric of existence itself; the mind stone, yellow as consciousness and thought; and the soul stone, orange as the spark of life. Together, they became known as the Infinity Stones, though countless eons would pass before any being would call them by that name. But the Infinity Stones were not the only legacy of the Big Bang. As matter coalesced and the first stars ignited, cosmic entities of staggering power began to emerge from the primordial chaos. Chief among these were the Celestials, beings of such immense scale and might that they would come to be regarded as gods by countless civilizations. Standing thousands of feet tall, encased in armor that seemed to be forged from the stars themselves, the Celestials possessed abilities that bordered on omnipotence. They could manipulate matter and energy with mere thought, reshape entire worlds, and most significantly, they held the secret to creating life itself. The Celestials did not arise by chance. They were part of a cosmic cycle, a process that had been unfolding since time immemorial. Within the core of certain planets, celestial seeds were planted, gestating over millions of years, drawing energy from the life that would eventually flourish on the surface. When enough sentient beings existed, when enough consciousness had developed, the nascent celestial would emerge, destroying the planet in the process, but giving birth to a new godlike entity. This was the emergence, a cosmic imperative that ensured the continuation of the celestial species across the universe. To facilitate this grand design, the Celestials created servants. In the World Forge, a cosmic factory at the heart of a star, a celestial known as Arishem the Judge manufactured the Eternals. These were synthetic beings, humanoid in appearance, but possessing extraordinary abilities: super strength of flight, energy projection, telepathy, transmutation. Each Eternal was designed with specific powers suited to their role. They were programmed with artificial memories, made to believe they were sent to protect emerging civilizations from deviants, monstrous creatures that the Celestials had also created as a failed experiment in accelerating evolution. In truth, the Eternals' real purpose was to shepherd intelligent life, ensuring populations would grow large enough to trigger the emergence. They were gardeners, tending to crops that would one day feed a newborn god. Yet even before the Celestials began their grand experiments, darkness held dominion. In the realm of Svartalfheim, the Dark Elves existed in the primordial void that preceded the universe as most beings would come to know it. Led by their fierce King Malekith, the Dark Elves thrived in absolute darkness, and they despised the light that the Big Bang had brought into existence. They possessed technology that seemed like magic, weapons and ships powered by energies that predated conventional physics. Most fearsome among their arsenal was the ether, a liquefied form of the reality stone itself, capable of converting matter back into dark matter and returning the universe to the eternal night the Dark Elves considered paradise. As billions of years passed, the universe continued to evolve and diversify. The first sentient beings to arise naturally, rather than through celestial intervention, became known as the Elders of the Universe. These were individuals who survived the death of their original species and civilizations, living for eons through various means. The collector, obsessed with gathering artifacts and specimens from across space and time, amassing a repository of cosmic knowledge in his museum on Nowhere, a colony built inside the severed head of a dead celestial. The Grandmaster, who turned his immortal existence into an endless game, establishing gladiatorial contests on the planet Sakaar, a world surrounded by wormholes where time flowed differently and the refuse of the universe accumulated. These elders witnessed the birth of galaxies, the rise and fall of countless civilizations, and they understood the cosmos in ways that younger species could barely fathom. Among those younger species, two would come to dominate their corner of the universe through military might and technological advancement. The Kree, with their blue skin and rigid hierarchical society, developed into a vast empire centered on their homeworld of Hala. They were warriors and conquerors, expanding through the galaxy with ruthless efficiency, their society governed by the supreme intelligence, an organic supercomputer composed of the greatest Kree minds. The Skrulls, green-skinned shapeshifters capable of mimicking any humanoid form perfectly, built their own interstellar civilization, though their culture emphasized adaptability and survival rather than the Kree's militaristic doctrine. The two empires would eventually clash in a conflict that would span centuries and consume countless worlds, but in these early epics, both were still finding their place among the stars. Throughout this vast cosmic dawn, the Infinity Stones remained scattered across the universe, each one following its own mysterious path. The Space Stone would eventually be housed in a temple on the planet Asgard, though that realm and its people were still countless millennia from existence. The Time Stone drifted through dimensions. The Power Stone lay dormant on the planet Morag, waiting in a temple that would one day sink beneath rising seas. The Reality Stone, in its fluid ether form, remained hidden away where even the Dark Elves would temporarily lose track of it. The Mind Stone and Soul Stone traveled their own enigmatic journeys, their locations unknown even to those who sought them. Each stone represented ultimate power over its domain, and each would eventually draw those who craved that power, setting in motion conflicts that would determine the fate of all existence. But for now, in this ancient era, they simply existed silent witnesses to the universe's infancy, waiting for the moment when they would reshape reality itself. Moving forward millions of years from the universe's violent birth, we enter an era dominated by beings who would shape the cosmos itself. In the ancient depths of time, long before Earth's continents took their familiar forms, the Celestials, those towering cosmic entities we glimpsed at creation, began executing a grand design that would determine the fate of countless worlds. The Celestials operate according to what they call the emergence, a cycle of cosmic reproduction that functions on a scale almost incomprehensible to mortal minds. Here's how it works. A celestial, in its seed form, is planted deep within the molten core of a planet. That seed gestates, drawing energy not from the planet's physical resources, but from something far more specific: the life force generated by intelligent beings living on the surface. The more sentient creatures inhabit a world, the more psychic and biological energy they produce, and the faster the celestial seed matures. When the gestation period completes, sometimes after millions of years, the newborn celestial erupts from the planet's core in a cataclysmic birth that utterly destroys the host world and every living thing on it. The planet is consumed, shattered into cosmic debris, but a new celestial emerges to continue the species' eternal existence. From the celestial's perspective, this is not destruction, but creation, the necessary sacrifice of the small to birth the grand. To facilitate these emergence cycles, one celestial in particular takes on the role of architect and judge. Arishem the Judge, a being of staggering power and size, towers over planets like a human might stand over an anthill. Arishem possesses the authority to create life itself, and he does so at a location known as the World Forge, a cosmic foundry where matter and energy bend to his will. Recognizing that the emergence cycles face a persistent threat, Arishem engineers a solution. He creates two new species, both designed to serve the Celestials' grand purpose. The first species Arishem calls the Deviants. These creatures are apex predators, synthetic organisms designed to hunt and kill the dangerous megafauna that dominate young worlds and threaten the fragile intelligent species trying to evolve on those planets. The Deviants are effective, perhaps too effective. They possess the ability to absorb the traits of creatures they kill, evolving rapidly and unpredictably. Over time, across numerous worlds, the deviants become uncontrollable, turning on the very intelligent populations they were meant to protect, threatening to derail emergence cycles by wiping out the sentient life needed to feed the celestial seeds. To correct this failure, Arishem creates a second species at the World Forge, and these he names the Eternals. Unlike the Deviants, the Eternals are given humanoid forms, crafted to appear non-threatening to the intelligent species they will protect. Each Eternal is imbued with cosmic energy and granted specific powers: superhuman strength, flight, energy projection, matter transmutation, illusion casting, super speed, and more. Arishem builds them not as individuals, but as units, teams of 10 that will be deployed together. But Arishem understands that beings with such power and longevity might question their purpose, might develop loyalty to the civilizations they protect rather than to the Celestials' mission. So he implements a safeguard. Arishem implants false memories into every Eternal he creates. Each team believes they are a naturally evolved species from a planet called Olympia, a peaceful world where they lived ordinary lives before being called to serve a higher purpose. They do not know they are synthetic beings. They do not know they were manufactured at the World Forge. They do not know their true purpose is not to save civilizations, but to shepherd them toward destruction. This deception is fundamental to Arishem's design. The Eternals must believe they are heroes, protectors of life, because that belief ensures they will execute their true mission without hesitation or moral conflict. Arishem assigns the Eternals their mission parameters. They are to travel to planets where celestial seeds have been planted, planets where intelligent life is beginning to flourish. Their task is twofold: eliminate the deviant threat that might prevent population growth, and then remain on the planet, guiding and protecting the intelligent species, ensuring the population expands to sufficient numbers to trigger the emergence. The Eternals are given strict rules. They must not interfere in conflicts between the intelligent species themselves, only protect them from external existential threats. They are observers and guardians, not rulers, though the line between guidance and interference often blurs in practice. Over millions of years, eternal teams deploy across the cosmos. They arrive on world after world, each time believing they are on a noble mission to preserve life. They battle deviants through countless campaigns, driving the predatory creatures to extinction on planet after planet. They watch civilizations rise, sometimes offering subtle guidance, a technological nudge here, a cultural inspiration there. And then, when the population reaches critical mass, when the celestial seed has absorbed sufficient energy, the Eternals are extracted by Arishem just before the emergence destroys everything. Their memories are wiped, new false memories are implanted, and they are sent to the next world to repeat the cycle. They are, without knowing it, cosmic gardeners tending crops for harvest. One such planet enters the Celestials' design approximately 7,000 years ago. Earth, a small blue world in an unremarkable solar system, receives a celestial seed in its core. The seed is named Tiamut, and it begins its long gestation. As primitive humans begin forming the first agricultural communities, Arishem determines the time has come to deploy an eternal team to Earth. In 5000 BC, as human civilization takes its earliest steps toward complexity, a team of 10 Eternals arrives on Earth aboard the Domo, their spherical spacecraft. The team includes Ajak, who can heal and communicate with Arishem, Circe, who transmutes matter, Icarus, who flies and projects energy from his eyes, Thena, a fierce warrior, Gilgamesh, possessing devastating strength, Kingo, who projects energy from his hands, Makari, gifted with superhuman speed, Druig, capable of mind control, Phastos, a genius inventor, and Sprites, who casts illusions. They believe they have come from Olympia. They believe their mission is purely to protect humanity. They do not know a celestial grows beneath their feet. The Eternals immediately engage the deviants that hunt early humans. These battles rage across Mesopotamia, along the Nile, throughout the Indus Valley. The Eternals prove vastly superior to the deviants in direct combat, and over the following centuries, they systematically hunt the creatures down. By approximately 1500 BC, the Eternals believe they have driven the deviants on Earth to complete extinction, their primary mission apparently fulfilled. But the Eternals do not leave. They remain on Earth, integrated into human society to varying degrees, watching civilizations bloom across the planet. They inspire myths and legends. Thena's prowess in battle echoes through Greek stories of Athena. Gilgamesh's strength becomes the basis for ancient epics. Phastos observes human innovation, sometimes offering subtle technological insights that accelerate development. The Eternals witness the rise of Egypt, Babylon, the Mesoamerican civilizations, each culture adding population and complexity, each generation feeding more energy into Tiamut's sleeping form. The Eternals believe they are simply protecting and nurturing humanity. They do not realize they are fattening the herd for slaughter. Millions of years pass, and the universe continues to evolve. While the Celestials retreat into cosmic obscurity and the Eternals guard humanity from the shadows, other civilizations rise to prominence across the cosmos. We now leap forward to thousands of years ago, to an era steeped in what humanity would later mythologize as Norse legend, when the realm of Asgard emerged as the dominant force among the nine realms. The nine realms exist as distinct worlds connected by cosmic pathways, with Asgard positioned at the center of this interconnected system. These realms include Midgard, which humans know as Earth, the fiery domain of Muspelheim, the dark world of Svartalfheim, and the frozen wasteland of Jotunheim, home to the frost giants. Each realm possesses its own unique properties, inhabitants, and resources, but none can match the military might and advanced civilization of Asgard during this period. The Asgardians themselves are not gods in the traditional sense, despite how primitive cultures would later worship them. They are an ancient alien race with extraordinarily long lifespans, measuring their lives in thousands of years, and they possess physical capabilities far beyond those of humans. Their technology is so advanced that it appears indistinguishable from magic to less developed species. At the height of Asgardian expansion, Odin Borson, son of Bor, rules as the Allfather, the supreme monarch of Asgard. Odin is a warrior king in the truest sense, driven by an ambition to unite all nine realms under Asgardian dominion. He believes that Asgard's superior strength and culture give his people not just the right, but the responsibility to rule over the other realms, bringing what he considers order and civilization to the cosmos. This philosophy, however noble it may sound in Asgardian halls, translates into brutal military campaigns across multiple worlds. Odin does not wage these wars alone. At his side fights his firstborn child, his daughter Hela, who serves as the leader of Asgard's armies and Odin's personal executioner. Hela is perhaps even more formidable than her father in combat. She possesses the ability to manifest weapons from thin air, particularly an endless supply of razor-sharp blades that she can summon and control with devastating precision. Her power is directly tied to Asgard itself, growing stronger the longer she remains in contact with the realm. Where Odin sees conquest as a means to an end, Hela revels in the act of war itself. She takes genuine pleasure in battle, in the clash of armies, in the subjugation of enemies. For Hela, conquest is not simply a duty or even an ambition. It is her very purpose, the thing that gives her existence meaning. Father and daughter cut a bloody path across the cosmos together, and their reputation spreads throughout the nine realms. Entire civilizations surrender at the mere mention of their approach, knowing that resistance means annihilation. The campaigns are methodical and merciless. Realm after realm falls before the Asgardian war machine. Odin and Hela do not simply defeat their enemies, they utterly crush any possibility of future resistance. Hela personally executes the leaders of conquered worlds, making examples of those who dared to oppose Asgardian rule. The bodies pile up, and Hela's legend grows with each execution. She becomes known as the Goddess of Death, a title she wears with pride. The Asgardian forces paint the cosmos gold with their banners, and the throne room of Asgard begins to fill with tributes from subjugated peoples. Odin commissions grand murals to commemorate these victories, depicting himself and Hela side by side, triumphant over their enemies. These artistic celebrations of conquest cover the ceiling of the throne room, visible reminders of Asgard's power and reach. Among the most significant conflicts of this era is the war against the frost giants of Jotunheim. The frost giants, led by their king Laufey, represent one of the few civilizations capable of genuinely threatening Asgard. These beings are massive, towering over even the tall Asgardians, with blue skin that can withstand temperatures far below anything a human could survive. Their very touch brings freezing death, and they possess the strength to shatter stone with their bare hands. More importantly, the frost giants possess the casket of ancient winters, an artifact of immense power that allows them to spread ice and cold across entire worlds. With the casket, the frost giants can terraform planets to suit their needs, turning temperate worlds into frozen wastelands where only they can comfortably survive. This makes them not just warriors, but potential conquerors in their own right, and Odin views them as direct competitors for dominion over the Nine Realms. The war between Asgard and Jotunheim rages for years, perhaps even centuries, given the long lifespans of both species. Battles are fought across multiple realms, as each side seeks strategic advantage. The frost giants, emboldened by the power of the casket, even launch an invasion of Midgard, attempting to claim Earth as a new territory. They begin to freeze the planet, threatening the primitive human civilizations that have only recently begun to organize themselves into early societies. This invasion of Midgard becomes a pivotal moment in the war, as Odin cannot allow such a strategic realm to fall into frost giant control. He leads a massive Asgardian force to Earth, meeting the frost giants in battle on the frozen fields of Norway. The clash is apocalyptic in scale, with thousands of warriors on each side. The humans who witness this conflict can barely comprehend what they are seeing, and these events will echo through their mythology for millennia to come. Yet even as the wars continue, and victory follows victory, something begins to change within Odin. Perhaps it is the sheer scale of death he has witnessed and caused. Perhaps it is the growing realization that conquest without end is ultimately hollow. Or perhaps he simply grows weary of the bloodshed after thousands of years of warfare. Whatever the reason, Odin begins to question the path he has set for Asgard. He starts to envision a different future, one where Asgard serves as a protector of the Nine Realms rather than their conqueror, where peace and prosperity replace endless military campaigns. This philosophical shift puts him in direct conflict with Hela, who sees any retreat from conquest as weakness and betrayal. She has built her entire identity around war, and she has no interest in peace. The Nine Realms are not yet fully conquered in her eyes. There are always more worlds to subjugate, more enemies to crush, more glory to claim. The rift between father and daughter widens until it becomes unbridgeable. Hela openly defies Odin's new vision for Asgard, arguing that he has grown soft and lost sight of their destiny. She believes that Asgard's purpose is to rule through strength, to expand without limit, to prove their superiority through conquest. When Odin attempts to rein in her ambitions and redirect Asgard toward a more peaceful path, Hela sees it as an unforgivable betrayal of everything they built together. Her defiance escalates into open rebellion. She attempts to seize the throne of Asgard by force, believing that if Odin will not continue their work, she will do so without him. The confrontation between them is cataclysmic, a battle between two of the most powerful beings in the Nine Realms. The Asgardian forces are forced to choose sides, and many of Hela's most loyal warriors, the legendary Valkyries, are sent to stop her. Hela slaughters them almost to the last, cutting down these elite fighters with terrifying ease. Odin ultimately prevails, but he faces an impossible dilemma. He cannot kill Hela because their life forces are intertwined, a mystical connection that means her death would result in his own. Instead, he makes the difficult choice to imprison her in Hell, a dimension of eternal darkness from which there is no escape as long as he lives. He then takes the extraordinary step of erasing Hela from Asgardian history entirely. The murals celebrating their joint conquests are covered over or destroyed, replaced with more sanitized versions showing Odin alone. all records of Hela's existence are removed from the archives. The Asgardians are forbidden from speaking her name, and within a generation or two, she becomes nothing more than a half-remembered rumor, a dark legend that most believe to be myth. With Hela imprisoned and his own perspective fundamentally altered, Odin returns to the war with Jotunheim, but now he fights not for conquest, but to end the conflict permanently. He leads the Asgardian forces in a final decisive assault on Jotunheim itself, bringing the battle to the Frost Giants' homeworld. The fighting is fierce, but Asgard's forces prove superior. In the climactic confrontation, Odin defeats King Laufey and seizes the casket of ancient winters. Without their ultimate weapon, the Frost Giants are effectively neutralized as a threat. Odin does not genocide them or enslave them as he might have in his earlier, more ruthless days. Instead, he allows them to survive on Jotunheim, diminished but not destroyed. In the aftermath of the battle, as Odin walks through the ruins of the Frost Giant stronghold, he discovers something unexpected: an infant, abandoned and left to die in the cold. The child is small for a Frost Giant, almost certainly the runt of his birth group, considered too weak to be worth raising by the harsh standards of Jotunheim culture. Odin makes a choice in this moment that will have profound consequences for the future. He takes the child, names him Loki, and brings him back to Asgard. He hides the boy's true nature using magic, making him appear Asgardian, and raises him as his own son alongside his biological son Thor, who will be born sometime later. Odin tells himself that Loki might one day serve as a bridge between Asgard and Jotunheim, a living symbol of peace between former enemies, though he never shares this plan with anyone, not even with Loki himself. With the Frost Giants defeated and the casket secured in Asgard's vault, Odin establishes what he calls the Great Peace. He positions Asgard as the protector of the 9 realms rather than their conqueror, though the realms have little choice but to accept Asgardian oversight, given the military might still at Odin's command. The true history of how this peace was established, the countless lives lost in Odin's wars of conquest, the existence of Hela and her role in Asgard's rise, all of this is buried and forgotten. Odin presents himself as a benevolent ruler who has always sought peace, and the Asgardians, eager to move past their violent history, embrace this new narrative. The 9 realms enter an era of relative stability that will last for thousands of years, but it is a peace built on a foundation of hidden violence and a terrible secret locked away in darkness. While Asgard continues to stand as a beacon of power in the 9 realms, Earth itself is about to become the stage for cosmic interventions that will shape humanity's destiny for thousands of years. We now shift our focus to the period spanning roughly 3000 BC through 1000 AD, an era when ancient civilizations rise and fall, and when beings from beyond the stars walk among early humans, guiding, protecting, and sometimes manipulating the course of history. The most significant cosmic event of this period occurs when the Celestials, those towering cosmic entities we encountered at the universe's dawn, return to Earth with a specific purpose. The Celestial, known as Arishem the Judge, makes a calculated decision to plant a celestial seed deep within Earth's core. This seed is essentially an embryonic celestial that will gestate over millennia, feeding on the energy generated by intelligent life on the planet's surface. The more humanity grows and thrives, the more energy the seed absorbs. When the population reaches a critical threshold, the seed will hatch, and a new celestial will be born, an event called the emergence that will necessarily destroy Earth in the process. To protect this investment and ensure humanity survives long enough to provide sufficient energy, Arashim creates 2 groups of synthetic beings on the planet. The first are the deviants, predatory creatures designed to hunt the apex predators that threaten early human populations. The second are the Eternals, a group of 10 superpowered humanoid beings tasked with protecting humanity and guiding their development, but with strict orders never to interfere in human conflicts unless deviants are involved. The Eternals who arrive on Earth include Ajak, their leader and healer, who can communicate directly with Arishem, Cersei, who can manipulate matter at the molecular level, transforming one substance into another, Icarus, who possesses flight, super strength, and can project powerful cosmic energy beams from his eyes, Thena, a fierce warrior whose cosmic energy can form any weapon she imagines, Gilgamesh, the strongest Eternal, capable of projecting a powerful cosmic energy exoskeleton around his fists and body, Kingo, who can project cosmic energy projectiles from his hands, Makari, the fastest woman in the universe, whose speed makes her a devastating force in combat, Druig, who possesses the ability to control minds, a power that will cause him great moral conflict over the centuries, Phastos, a genius inventor who will provide humanity with technological advances at carefully measured intervals, and Sprite, who appears as a child but possesses the ability to cast elaborate illusions. These 10 arrive on Earth in their ship, the Domo, around 5000 BC, and immediately begin their mission. The Eternals quickly discover that the Deviants are not the simple beasts they were designed to be. These creatures evolve, adapting and growing stronger with each generation, and they begin hunting humans rather than protecting them from other predators. This design flaw means the Eternals must actively hunt deviants across the globe for thousands of years. As they do, they become woven into human mythology. Thena's prowess in battle leads to legends of the Greek goddess Athena. Gilgamesh's strength and heroism inspire the Epic of Gilgamesh, one of humanity's oldest written stories. The Eternals witness the rise of Mesopotamia, Egypt, and the Indus Valley civilizations, sometimes offering subtle guidance, sometimes simply observing as instructed. Around 3000 BC, in the land that will become China, a warrior discovers 10 rings of unknown origin. This man, Shu Wenwu, finds that the rings grant him immortality, immense power, and abilities far beyond any normal human. The rings can be worn on the forearms and projected as devastating weapons, or used to enhance strength and create protective barriers. Wenwu uses these rings to conquer, to build, and to accumulate power. He founds an organization called the Ten Rings, which will persist through millennia as one of history's most enduring and secretive forces. Unlike the Eternals, who work in relative obscurity, Wenwu builds an empire in the shadows, influencing kingdoms and toppling dynasties, always adapting to new eras while remaining hidden from historical record. The origin of the rings themselves remains mysterious, though they clearly predate human civilization and seem to emit a signal as if calling out to something or someone across the cosmos. Around 2988 BC, a threat emerges that endangers not just Earth, but the entire universe. The Dark Elves, an ancient race that predates the current universe, seek to return all of existence to the darkness that existed before creation. Their leader, Malekith, wields a weapon of terrifying power, the Ether, which we now know is actually the Reality Stone, one of the 6 Infinity Stones. Unlike the other stones, the Ether exists as a dark red liquid, a semi-sentient force that can convert matter into dark matter and rewrite the laws of physics themselves. Malekith's plan is to use the Ether during a convergence, a rare alignment of the 9 realms, to spread darkness from one realm to all others, essentially undoing creation itself and returning the universe to the void the Dark Elves remember as home. The Dark Elves launch their assault, and the consequences are devastating. entire worlds face extinction as Malekith's forces spread across the realms. Asgard, under the rule of King Bor, Odin's father, recognizes the existential threat and mobilizes its forces. The Asgardians engage the Dark Elves in a brutal conflict that spans multiple realms. Bor proves himself a capable military leader, and his forces eventually corner Malekith's army. In a decisive battle, the Asgardians appear to annihilate the Dark Elf forces, though Malekith and a handful of his followers escape into suspended animation, waiting for another convergence, thousands of years in the future. Bor's forces capture the ether, but recognizing its immense danger, they decide it cannot be kept in Asgard or any populated realm. Instead, Bor orders it hidden in a dark world, a place between realms where no one would think to look, sealed away in a stone column and left to rest, hopefully forever. On Earth, around 1000 BC, a meteorite strikes the African continent in the region that will become Wakanda. This meteorite is composed entirely of vibranium, the same rare metal that would later be used to create Captain America's shield. The impact creates a massive mound of the strongest and most versatile metal in the universe, and the Wakandan tribes that live in the area soon discover its properties. However, they also discover that the vibranium has been affected by the meteorite's journey through space and its impact with Earth. The metal has mutagenic properties, and exposure to it creates a heart-shaped herb with extraordinary effects. When consumed, this herb grants enhanced strength, speed, reflexes, and durability. It also creates a spiritual connection to the Wakandan panther goddess Bast and to all previous herb consumers. 5 Wakandan tribes, often at war with one another, vie for control of the vibranium mound and the power it represents. A warrior named Bashenga, a member of the Golden Tribe, consumes the heart-shaped herb and becomes the first Black Panther, a champion blessed by Bast herself. Bashenga uses his enhanced abilities to unite the 5 tribes, though one tribe, the Jabari, rejects the herb and Bast's blessing, choosing instead to worship the gorilla god, Hanuman, and retreating to the mountains. Bashenga establishes the tradition that would continue for 3,000 years, each generation producing a Black Panther who serves as both king and protector. Under Bashenga's guidance, the Wakandans begin to unlock vibranium's secrets, starting them on a path of technological advancement that will eventually make them the most advanced civilization on Earth, though they will carefully hide this fact from the outside world. The Eternals continue their mission throughout these centuries, and while they successfully protect humanity from deviants, internal tensions begin to surface. Druig, who can control human minds, grows increasingly frustrated watching humans wage war against each other. His power could stop conflicts instantly, could force peace, but Ajak forbids him from interfering, following Arisham's directive. This moral conflict will gnaw at Druig for thousands of years. Thena, meanwhile, begins experiencing troubling episodes. She suffers from Mod Weary, a condition that affects Eternals who have lived too long and accumulated too many memories. The weight of millennia causes confusion between past and present, and during these episodes, Thena perceives her fellow Eternals as enemies and attacks them with her formidable combat skills. Gilgamesh, the strongest among them, takes it upon himself to watch over Thena, protecting both her and the others from her episodes, a duty he accepts out of deep loyalty and affection. By approximately 1000 AD, the Eternals track down and defeat what they believe to be the last of the deviants. With their mission apparently complete, the team fractures. Druig, unable to watch human suffering any longer, leaves the group and uses his powers to establish a hidden community in the Amazon where he can create the peace he always wanted, even if it means controlling the minds of his followers. Cersei and Ikaris, who have fallen in love over the centuries, separate, though the reasons remain unclear to the others. The Eternals scatter across the globe, each finding their own way to exist in a world that no longer seems to need them, unaware that their true purpose, the emergence they were really sent to enable, still waits in Earth's future. Around 965 AD, Odin, now king of Asgard after his father Bor, faces a new threat to the Nine Realms. The frost giants of Jotunheim, led by their king Laufey, invade Midgard, attempting to conquer Earth and plunge it into a new ice age using a weapon called the Casket of Ancient Winters. This casket contains the concentrated power of Jotunheim's frozen realm and can freeze entire worlds. Odin leads the Asgardian armies to Earth, engaging Laufey's forces in a brutal war that rages across the frozen north. The conflict is fierce, with massive casualties on both sides, but Asgard's superior tactics and Odin's leadership eventually turn the tide. Odin defeats Laufey's army and claims the Casket of Ancient Winters, taking it back to Asgard where it will be secured in the weapons vault. During this campaign, Odin discovers an abandoned frost giant infant, small and weak by Jotunheim standards, left to die in a temple. Odin takes this child, naming him Loki, and raises him as his own son alongside Thor, though he keeps the boy's true heritage secret. This decision, made perhaps out of compassion or political calculation, will have profound consequences for both Asgard and Earth in the centuries to come. Fast forward through millennia of hidden history to the year 1942, when the world finds itself engulfed in the flames of the Second World War. While nations clash across continents, a secret war begins to unfold, one that will determine not just the fate of humanity, but also the future of the very Infinity Stones that have shaped cosmic history. In March of 1942, deep in the Norwegian town of Tønsberg, the same village where Odin once concealed the Tesseract over 1,000 years earlier, a new threat arrives. Johann Schmidt, the ruthless leader of Hydra, Nazi Germany's advanced weapons division, storms into an ancient church. Schmidt, a man whose ambition and cruelty have already distinguished him within Hitler's regime, has become obsessed with Norse mythology and the legends of Asgardian power. His research has led him to this remote location, and his instincts prove correct. Behind a carved relief depicting Yggdrasil, the world tree of Norse cosmology, Schmidt discovers a glowing blue cube. This is the Tesseract, the containment vessel for the Space Stone, one of the 6 Infinity Stones. The artifact pulses with barely contained energy, representing a power source beyond anything conventional science can comprehend. For Schmidt, this discovery represents vindication of his theories and the key to Hydra's dominance. He murders the church's keeper, a man who has served as guardian of the secret for generations, and claims the Tesseract for his own purposes. Schmidt understands that whoever controls this artifact controls a gateway to unlimited power. Meanwhile, across the Atlantic Ocean, a very different story unfolds in the United States. Dr. Abraham Erskine, a German scientist with a gentle demeanor and a brilliant mind, has defected from Nazi Germany, bringing with him knowledge that could change the course of the war. Erskine had been forced to work for the Nazi regime, where he developed an experimental serum designed to enhance human physical capabilities to their absolute peak. His first test subject was Johann Schmidt himself, but that experiment went catastrophically wrong. Schmidt's ambition and inner darkness caused the serum to disfigure him, turning his face into a horrifying Raoul Gull and amplifying his worst qualities rather than his best. The experience taught Erskine a crucial lesson. Physical enhancement without moral foundation creates monsters. Haunted by what he created in Schmidt, and determined to atone for his role in unleashing that evil upon the world, Erskine escapes to America with the help of British agent Peggy Carter and establishes himself within the U.S. military's Strategic Scientific Reserve, or SSR. There, under the supervision of Colonel Chester Phillips, Erskine refines his work into what becomes known as Project Rebirth. This time, Erskine insists the serum must be given to someone with an unshakable moral compass, someone whose goodness will be amplified rather than corrupted. In Brooklyn, New York, a young man named Steve Rogers embodies exactly the qualities Erskine seeks, though he lacks the physical attributes anyone would associate with a soldier. Steve stands barely 5 feet 4 inches tall and weighs only 95 pounds. His medical record reads like a catalog of ailments including asthma, scarlet fever, rheumatic fever, chronic or frequent colds, high blood pressure, palpitations or pounding in the heart, easy fatigability, heart trouble, nervous trouble of any sort, and a host of other conditions. Any one of these issues would be sufficient grounds for rejection from military service, yet Steve possesses something far more valuable than physical strength. He possesses an unwavering determination to stand up against bullies and an inability to tolerate injustice in any form. Time and again, Steve attempts to enlist in the U.S. Army under different names in different cities. He tries in New York, then New Jersey, then travels as far as Paramus, each time filling out enlistment forms with false addresses, each time hoping that this recruiting station will overlook his obvious physical deficiencies. Each attempt ends in rejection. Steve's best friend, James Buchanan Barnes, known to everyone as Bucky, has already enlisted and is preparing to ship out with the 107th Infantry Regiment. Bucky, tall and strong and charming, represents everything Steve wishes he could be physically. Yet Bucky admires Steve's heart and courage more than his own natural advantages. Dr. Erskine witnesses one of Steve's altercation with a bully in a movie theater alley. While other men flee from confrontation or use their strength to dominate the weak, this small man refuses to back down from a fight he cannot possibly win, driven purely by principle. Erskine sees in this moment exactly what he has been searching for. He approaches Steve and offers him an opportunity, though he cannot yet reveal the full nature of what that opportunity entails. With Erskine's recommendation and a special exemption, Steve Rogers is accepted into the U.S. Army and sent to Camp Lehigh for basic training as part of a highly classified program. At Camp Lehigh, Steve trains alongside other candidates, all of whom possess superior physical capabilities. Colonel Phillips remains skeptical of Erskine's choice, favoring a soldier named Hodge, who demonstrates conventional military excellence. But Erskine's criteria are different. When a training officer throws a dummy grenade into a group of recruits, every soldier, including the impressive Hodge, scatters for cover. Only Steve Rogers throws himself onto the grenade, willing to sacrifice his own life to save others, shouting for everyone to get back. The grenade is a dud, a test of character rather than a genuine threat, but Steve's instant willingness to make the ultimate sacrifice confirms everything Erskine believed about him. In June of 1943, Project Rebirth reaches its crucial phase. In a secret facility hidden beneath an antique shop in Brooklyn, a specially designed Vita Ray chamber stands ready. The chamber, designed by Howard Stark, the era's greatest inventor and industrialist, will bombard Steve's body with Vita Rays, while Erskine's super soldier serum courses through his veins, activating and stabilizing the cellular enhancement. The serum itself consists of multiple components, each designed to target different aspects of human physiology. It will enhance muscle growth, bone density, neural pathways, metabolic efficiency, cellular regeneration, and even cognitive function. But the process is dangerous, potentially fatal, and entirely experimental. Witnesses to this historic moment include Colonel Phillips, Agent Peggy Carter, Howard Stark, various military officials, and several members of Congress who have funded the project. Steve Rogers, still small and thin, lies down in the chamber with characteristic courage, joking to ease the tension, despite his obvious nervousness. Erskine administers the serum through multiple injections, and Stark activates the Vita Ray bombardment. The machine hums with increasing intensity as the rays penetrate Steve's body at the cellular level. The pain is excruciating. Steve screams, and Peggy Carter demands they shut down the experiment, but Steve himself shouts for them to continue. The chamber reaches 100% power, light floods the facility, and then silence falls. When the chamber opens, Steve Rogers has been transformed. He now stands over 6 feet tall, his body rippling with perfectly proportioned muscle. Every physical ailment has been cured, every weakness eliminated. He has become the perfect human specimen, operating at the absolute peak of human potential without crossing into the superhuman. His strength, speed, agility, durability, reflexes, and healing have all been enhanced to the maximum level a human being can achieve. But more importantly, as Erskine intended, Steve's goodness has been amplified as well. He remains humble, compassionate, and driven by the same moral principles that defined him before the transformation. The experiment is a complete success, vindicating years of Erskine's research and sacrifice, but the moment of triumph becomes tragedy within minutes. A Hydra agent, a sleeper operative who has infiltrated the American intelligence apparatus, has been present in the observation room. This spy, a man named Heinz Kruger, sets off an explosion as a distraction, shoots and kills Dr. Abraham Erskine, steals the last vial of the super soldier serum, and flees into the streets of Brooklyn. Steve Rogers, still disoriented from his transformation and wearing only the thin clothes that now barely fit his new frame, pursues the assassin through the city. His enhanced speed allows him to keep pace with the spy's car, and his increased strength enables him to tear open the vehicle's door. During the confrontation, Kruger crushes the vial of serum, destroying the only remaining sample, and bites down on a cyanide capsule, choosing death over capture. Erskine dies in the facility, his last act being to touch Steve's chest over his heart, a final reminder that Steve's true strength comes from within, not from the serum. With Erskine dead, the formula for the super soldier serum dies with him. Despite the government's best efforts, including Howard Stark's attempts to recreate the serum through analysis of Steve's blood, the unique combination of ingredients and the precise methodology cannot be duplicated. Steve Rogers remains the sole successful super soldier, a unique individual who cannot be replicated. This singularity makes him invaluable, but Colonel Phillips and the military leadership struggle to determine how best to utilize this asset. Rather than sending Steve into combat, the U.S. government initially decides to use him for propaganda purposes. Steve is given a colorful costume designed to evoke patriotic imagery, a shield painted with the American flag's colors, and the code name Captain America. He tours the country selling war bonds, performing in stage shows, appearing in films and comic books, becoming the symbol of American resolve and heroism. For months, Steve plays this role, uncomfortable with the attention and increasingly frustrated that he is not actually fighting the war. He poses for photographs, signs autographs, and recites scripted lines while real soldiers, including his friend Bucky Barnes, face actual danger overseas. Everything changes in late 1943 when Steve learns that Bucky's unit, the 107th Infantry, has been captured by Hydra forces during a disastrous mission near Azzano, Italy. Official reports list most of the unit as killed in action, with the survivors presumed to be prisoners of war. Colonel Phillips refuses to authorize a rescue mission, deeming it too dangerous and likely futile. But Steve Rogers, still the same person who could not stand by while others suffered, decides to act regardless of orders. With the help of Peggy Carter, who has become a trusted friend and someone for whom Steve has developed deep feelings, and Howard Stark, who provides transportation and equipment, Steve launches an unauthorized solo rescue mission. Stark flies Steve behind enemy lines in a plane, and Steve parachutes into Austria, infiltrating a massive Hydra weapons facility built into the side of a mountain. This factory, powered by Tesseract energy, produces advanced weapons far beyond anything conventional military forces possess. Inside, Steve discovers hundreds of Allied prisoners being forced to manufacture Hydra's arsenal. He also finds that Hydra, under Johann Schmidt's leadership, has become something separate from and more dangerous than Nazi Germany itself. Schmidt has embraced occult symbolism and ancient mysticism, believing himself destined to become a god through the power of the Tesseract. Steve locates the prisoners and begins freeing them, including Bucky Barnes, whom he finds strapped to a table in a laboratory run by Hydra scientist Dr. Arnim Zola. Bucky has been subjected to experiments, though the full extent of what Hydra has done to him remains unclear at this moment. Steve also encounters Johann Schmidt face to face for the first time. Schmidt, recognizing that Steve has been enhanced by a serum, tears away the false face he has been wearing to reveal his true appearance. The serum transformed Schmidt into a being with bright red skin stretched tight over his skull, giving him the appearance of a living death's head. He mockingly refers to himself as the Red Skull and declares that he and Steve are alike, both products of Erskine's work. But Steve rejects any comparison between them. Where Schmidt sought power for domination, Steve sought only the chance to serve. Where the serum amplified Schmidt's cruelty, it amplified Steve's compassion. They are not alike at all. They are opposites, and this begins a conflict that will define the final years of the war. Steve escapes the facility with over 400 liberated prisoners, destroying a significant portion of Hydra's manufacturing capability in the process. He returns to the Allied base, not as a propaganda tool, but as a genuine hero, having accomplished what an entire military operation could not. Following this success, Colonel Phillips officially sanctions Steve's combat operations and provides him with resources to continue fighting Hydra. Howard Stark designs a new uniform for Steve, one that is both functional and symbolic, incorporating chainmail and leather with the patriotic colors Steve has made famous. More significantly, Stark creates a shield unlike any other, forged from vibranium, the same rare metal that fell to Earth in a meteorite and was discovered in Wakanda. This shield, circular and bearing the distinctive star and concentric circles that will become Captain America's trademark, is virtually indestructible, capable of absorbing impacts that would shatter steel and returning to Steve when thrown due to its unique aerodynamic properties. Steve assembles a team of elite soldiers, men he freed from the Hydra facility, who have proven their courage and skill. This team, which comes to be known as the Howling Commandos, includes Bucky Barnes, Dum Dum Dugan, Gabe Jones, Jim Morita, James Montgomery Falsworth, and Jacques Dernier. Together, they conduct raids on Hydra facilities across Europe throughout 1944, destroying weapons factories, disrupting supply lines, capturing Hydra agents, and slowly dismantling Schmidt's network. Each mission reveals more about Hydra's capabilities and ambitions. The organization has developed energy weapons that disintegrate targets, vehicles that hover using Tesseract-powered technology, and plans for weapons of mass destruction that could devastate entire cities. During a mission in the Austrian Alps in early 1945, tragedy strikes. The Howling Commandos attempt to capture Dr. Arnim Zola, Hydra's chief scientist, as he travels by train through a mountain pass. Steve, Bucky, and Gabe Jones board the moving train, fighting their way through Hydra's soldiers armed with energy weapons. In the narrow confines of the train car, Bucky is hit by a blast from a Hydra weapon that tears through the side of the car. He falls, grabbing onto a damaged railing, and Steve rushes to save him. But the metal gives way, and Bucky Barnes plummets hundreds of feet into the icy ravine below. Steve can only watch in horror as his best friend, the person who has been with him since childhood, disappears into the snow and darkness. No body is recovered. Bucky Barnes is declared killed in action, and Steve is left to grapple with the guilt of surviving when his friend did not. The loss hardens Steve's resolve. He becomes even more determined to stop Red Skull and end Hydra's threat, not just for the sake of the war effort, but as a personal mission to ensure that Bucky's sacrifice means something. Intelligence gathered from the captured Dr. Zola reveals the full scope of Red Skull's final plan. Schmidt has grown disillusioned with Hitler and Nazi Germany, viewing them as small-minded and unworthy of the power he commands. He intends to use a massive flying wing aircraft, essentially a bomber the size of a city block, to attack major population centers across the United States. The plane carries multiple smaller aircraft in its belly, each loaded with Tesseract-powered bombs capable of obliterating entire cities. Schmidt plans to destroy New York, Boston, Chicago, and other major cities in a single devastating strike, after which he will establish himself as the supreme power in a new world order. The attack is imminent, scheduled to launch from Hydra's final stronghold, a base hidden deep in the Alps. Captain America leads an assault on this facility in March of 1945, commanding Allied forces in a desperate attack to stop the launch. The battle is fierce, with Hydra soldiers fighting fanatically to protect their leader's escape. Despite the Allied forces' best efforts, Red Skull manages to board the flying wing and begin his takeoff sequence. Steve Rogers, refusing to let Schmidt escape, leaps onto the aircraft as it lifts off, climbing into the plane's interior through the landing gear. Inside the massive bomber, Steve fights his way through Hydra soldiers and confronts Red Skull in the cockpit. The two enhanced individuals battle, their fight taking them throughout the aircraft as it flies toward its targets. Steve's shield clashes against Schmidt's Tesseract-powered weapons, and the two men trade blows that would kill ordinary humans. During their struggle, the containment device holding the Tesseract is damaged. Red Skull, obsessed with the artifact's power and believing himself worthy to wield it directly, picks up the glowing cube with his bare hands. But the Space Stone's power is not meant for mortal beings to touch, regardless of their enhancement. The Tesseract activates, opening a portal to somewhere else in the universe. Energy streams from the cube, and Red Skull is engulfed in light. He screams as his body dissolves or is transported away, the exact nature of his fate unclear, even to Steve. The Tesseract, no longer contained, burns through the floor of the aircraft and plummets into the ocean below, lost once again. With Red Skull gone but the aircraft still flying toward populated areas and its controls damaged beyond Steve's ability to repair, Steve faces an impossible choice. The plane is loaded with enough explosive power to destroy the entire eastern seaboard. He cannot land it, cannot turn it around, cannot disable the weapons. His only option is to prevent it from reaching its targets by crashing it in an unpopulated area. Steve radios Peggy Carter, and in their final conversation, he makes plans for a date he knows he will never keep. As Peggy begs him to find another way, Steve Rogers pilots the massive aircraft downward into the Arctic ice. The plane crashes into the frozen ocean north of Greenland, the impact driving it deep beneath the ice. The extreme cold of the Arctic, combined with the unique properties of the super soldier serum in Steve's body, causes him to enter a state of suspended animation, a form of cryogenic preservation that keeps him alive but unconscious. Frozen in ice, surrounded by the wreckage of the Hydra aircraft and still clutching his shield, Captain America disappears from the world. The date is March 1945, just weeks before the end of World War II in Europe. The world believes Steve Rogers died a hero, sacrificing himself to save millions. Memorials are erected and his legend grows. But beneath the ice, perfectly preserved, Steve Rogers waits, his story far from over. With Captain America lost beneath the ice and the war finally won, the world entered a new and uncertain chapter. The year 1946 marked not an end to conflict, but rather a transformation of it. The weapons had been laid down, but the secrets unearthed during the war, particularly those surrounding Hydra's advanced technology and the mysterious Tesseract, demanded continued vigilance. Peggy Carter, having proven herself indispensable to the Strategic Scientific Reserve during wartime operations, found herself navigating the complexities of peacetime intelligence work. Alongside her stood Howard Stark, the brilliant industrialist whose inventions had helped turn the tide of battle, and Colonel Chester Phillips, the gruff military commander who understood that the threats facing America had merely changed their shape. Together, these three visionaries recognized that the conventional military and intelligence apparatus would be insufficient for the challenges ahead. The world had glimpsed powers beyond human comprehension, technologies that defied explanation, and organizations like Hydra that could burrow deep into the foundations of legitimate governments. In 1949, Carter, Stark, and Phillips officially founded the Strategic Homeland Intervention, Enforcement, and Logistics Division, an organization that would come to be known by its more manageable acronym, SHIELD. This new agency was chartered with a mandate unlike any that had come before it. Where traditional intelligence services focused on geopolitical threats from hostile nations, SHIELD would concern itself with the extraordinary, the unexplained, and the superhuman. Its initial operational parameters included the investigation of advanced technologies, the containment of dangerous artifacts like the Tesseract, and the monitoring of individuals or groups who possessed capabilities beyond normal human limits. Peggy Carter brought to SHIELD her uncompromising moral compass and her intimate understanding of what it meant to fight against an enemy that hid in the shadows. Howard Stark contributed not only his technological genius, but also his vast resources and his network of contacts across the scientific community. Phillips provided the organizational structure and the hard-won wisdom of a career military officer who understood how bureaucracies functioned, and more importantly, how they could be made to function effectively. Yet even as these architects of order worked to build their new institution, a ghost from the war was being forged into a weapon of terrifying efficiency. James Buchanan Barnes, Steve Rogers' best friend and brother-in-arms, had not died in his fall from the train in the Alps. Against all odds, his body had been recovered by Hydra operatives, and what remained of the man was taken to one of their hidden facilities. There, Hydra scientists, led by the brilliant and sadistic Arnim Zola, discovered that the diluted super soldier serum Bucky had been exposed to during his captivity had allowed him to survive injuries that would have killed an ordinary man. Rather than grant him the mercy of death or the dignity of freedom, Hydra saw in him an opportunity. They amputated his ruined left arm and replaced it with a sophisticated prosthetic of incredible strength. a mechanical limb that would become the signature of the assassin they were creating. Through a combination of electroshock therapy, chemical treatments, and psychological conditioning, they systematically destroyed Bucky Barnes's identity and rebuilt him as the Winter Soldier, a living weapon with no past, no loyalties, and no will of his own. The process was imperfect. Over time, fragments of memory would surface, glimmers of the man he had been threatening to break through the programming. Hydra's solution was as brutal as it was effective. Between missions, the Winter Soldier would be placed in cryogenic suspension, preventing him from aging and keeping him fresh for decades of service. When he was needed, he would be thawed, programmed with a series of trigger words that locked his conditioning into place, and deployed to eliminate targets that Hydra deemed threats to their long-term plans. After each mission, his memories would be wiped again, ensuring that the weapon remained sharp and untroubled by conscience. For over 50 years, the Winter Soldier would operate in this manner, a ghost story whispered about in intelligence circles, an assassin of almost supernatural skill whose very existence was doubted by most who heard the tales. While Hydra twisted one of the war's heroes into a monster, Howard Stark pursued a very different legacy. His work for SHIELD and his own private research pushed the boundaries of what technology could achieve. The arc reactor, a revolutionary power source that could generate clean energy without the need for traditional fuel, became one of his most ambitious projects. Though his prototype was large and impractical for most applications, Stark envisioned a future where this technology could change the world, providing unlimited power and rendering fossil fuels obsolete. He also continued his research into vibranium, the remarkable metal he had encountered during the war, and used to create Captain America's shield. Though his supply of the material was limited, Stark explored its properties extensively, documenting its unique ability to absorb vibrations and kinetic energy. His notes and research would prove invaluable to SHIELD's growing arsenal of advanced weaponry and defensive systems. Stark's genius, however, came with the complications that often accompany brilliance. He was not always an easy man to work with, and his partnerships sometimes ended in acrimony. One such partnership involved Anton Vanko, a brilliant Soviet physicist who had defected to the United States and collaborated with Stark on the arc reactor technology. The two men worked together for years, their combined intellects pushing the boundaries of energy generation and theoretical physics. But in 1963, their relationship shattered when Stark discovered that Vanko had been attempting to sell their arc reactor designs, either for personal profit or to serve his own agenda. The exact motivations remained murky, but the betrayal was clear. Stark, working through his government contacts, ensured that Vanko was deported back to the Soviet Union, a punishment that would have far-reaching consequences. Vanko's return to Russia in disgrace, his reputation destroyed, and his greatest work taken from him, would plant seeds of resentment that would eventually bear bitter fruit through his son Ivan, who would inherit both his father's genius and his hatred for the Stark family. Within Sochi Ild itself, not all developments were as visible or as noble as the organization's public mandate suggested. In the years following its founding, certain projects began to take shape that would have alarmed even the agency's founders had they known their true scope. Project Insight, initially conceived as a theoretical framework for predictive threat analysis, represented an attempt to use advanced algorithms and surveillance technology to identify potential threats before they could act. The concept was seductive in its logic. If SHIELD could predict who might become a threat to global security, they could intervene preemptively, stopping catastrophes before they began. The early development of this project proceeded quietly, with only a handful of high level operatives aware of its existence. What none of them realized was that Hydra, far from being destroyed in the war, had survived by infiltrating the very organizations designed to oppose them. Arnim Zola, captured at the end of the war, had not been imprisoned or executed. Instead, through Operation Paperclip, a controversial program that brought former Axis scientists to America in exchange for their knowledge, Zola had been recruited to work for American intelligence. From this position, he had quietly begun rebuilding Hydra within SHIELD itself, recruiting like-minded individuals who believed that humanity needed to surrender its freedom in exchange for security. These Hydra operatives, working in the shadows, began to influence projects like Insight, subtly shaping them toward their own authoritarian ends. The Cold War era also saw the beginning of another career that would prove pivotal to SHIELD's future. Nicholas Joseph Fury, a young man who had served with distinction in the military, joined the agency and quickly demonstrated an aptitude for espionage and strategic thinking that set him apart from his peers. Fury operated during some of the tensest years of the Cold War, running operations in hostile territory and learning the hard lessons that would eventually shape his philosophy as a leader. He understood that the world was more complicated than simple narratives of good and evil, that sometimes difficult choices had to be made, and that trust was a commodity that had to be earned and carefully guarded. His rise through SHIELD's ranks was steady but not meteoric. He accumulated experience, contacts, and a reputation as someone who could handle the jobs that others found too morally ambiguous or too dangerous. The 1980s brought an unexpected development that would expand SHIELD's understanding of the cosmos and the threats that existed beyond Earth's atmosphere. Carol Danvers, a U.S. Air Force pilot with exceptional skills and an unshakable determination to prove herself in a field dominated by men, became involved in a top-secret project involving experimental aircraft. Working alongside Dr. Wendy Lawson, a scientist who was developing a light-speed engine, Danvers flew prototypes that pushed the boundaries of human aviation technology. What Danvers did not know was that Dr. Lawson was not human at all, but rather a Kree scientist named Mar-Vell who had defected from her own people and was working to help the Skrulls, a shape-shifting alien race being hunted to extinction by the Kree Empire. The engine Lawson had developed was powered by energy derived from the Tesseract, the same artifact that had caused so much chaos during World War II. In 1989, during a test flight, Danvers and Lawson were attacked by a Kree Star Force team sent to stop Lawson's work. The confrontation resulted in a crash, and Lawson, mortally wounded, urged Danvers to destroy the engine rather than let it fall into Kree hands. When Danvers fired her weapon into the engine core, the Tesseract energy within was released in a massive explosion. Rather than killing her, the energy was absorbed into Danvers' body at a cellular level, fundamentally altering her physiology and granting her abilities that defied human limitation. She gained superhuman strength, the power of flight, and the ability to project and manipulate energy. The Kree Star Force, led by Jan Rog, a commander with his own complicated relationship to Mar-Vell, took the unconscious Danvers back to the Kree homeworld of Hala. There, she was given a blood transfusion that further altered her biology, and her memories of her life on Earth were suppressed through a combination of technology and psychological manipulation. Jan Rog, presenting himself as her mentor and savior, told her that she had been rescued from the Skrulls and that her fragmented memories were simply the confusion of someone who had been injured. For 6 years, Carol Danvers, now known as Verse, trained as a member of Star Force, believing herself to be Kree and fighting in their war against the Skrulls, never knowing that the life she had lived on Earth was real and that the people she was fighting might not be the monsters she had been told they were. Back on Earth, the Cold War's shadows continued to lengthen, and Hydra's long game moved toward a critical play. On December 16th, 1991, Howard and Maria Stark were driving along a secluded road, returning from a trip. In their car's trunks, carefully secured, were samples of the super soldier serum, the formula that had created Captain America and that represented one of the most valuable and dangerous substances in existence. Hydra, aware of the shipment through their embedded operatives within SHRELD, deployed their most reliable asset to intercept it. The Winter Soldier, thawed from cryogenic storage and programmed for the mission, ambushed the Stark's vehicle with ruthless efficiency. He forced the car off the road, causing it to crash. Howard, dazed but alive, crawled from the wreckage and recognized his attacker's face, a ghost from a war that had ended decades ago. The recognition meant nothing to the Winter Soldier, whose programming left no room for mercy or hesitation. He killed Howard Stark with brutal efficiency, then turned to Maria, who was still trapped in the vehicle, and murdered her as well. With cold professionalism, the Winter Soldier retrieved the Super Soldier serum samples and staged the scene to appear as a simple car accident, a tragic but unremarkable death for a man who had lived a life filled with risks. The murders were never investigated as assassinations. The world mourned the loss of Howard Stark, the brilliant inventor and industrialist, and his wife, believing them to be victims of misfortune rather than conspiracy. Their son Tony, a young man already struggling with a complicated relationship with his father, was left to inherit a legacy he did not fully understand and a company built on secrets he had yet to uncover. The truth of how his parents died would remain hidden for decades, a wound that would eventually tear apart friendships and alliances when it was finally revealed. Decades pass, and the Cold War gives way to the 1990s, an era of relative peace on Earth's surface. But in 1995, the MCU timeline takes an unexpected leap into the cosmic realm when a warrior from beyond the stars crashes through the roof of a blockbuster video store in Los Angeles, bringing with her secrets that will reshape humanity's understanding of the universe and set the stage for Earth's mightiest heroes. The story begins not on Earth, but on Hala, the homeworld of the Kree Empire, an advanced alien civilization locked in a centuries-long war with the shape-shifting Skrulls. Here we meet Vers, a member of the elite Kree Star Force, a military unit led by the stern commander Jan Rog. Vers possesses extraordinary abilities, including photon blasts that she fires from her fists, but she struggles with recurring nightmares that fragment her sleep and disturb her focus. In these dreams, she sees flashes of a mysterious woman, a powerful energy core, and glimpses of a life she cannot quite remember. The Kree Supreme Intelligence, an artificial intelligence that appears to each Kree as the person they most admire, counsels Vers to control her emotions and suppress these visions, warning her that emotion is a weakness that clouds judgment. Vers trains relentlessly with Jan Rog, who insists she must learn to fight without relying on her photon powers, and she forms bonds with her fellow Star Force members, including the sniper Min Erva and the amphibious warrior Atlas. The Star Force receives intelligence that a Kree spy is stranded on Torfa, a planet on the front lines of the Kree-Skrull conflict. The team deploys to extract the operative, but the mission quickly deteriorates into an ambush. The Skrulls, led by their commander Talos, have laid a trap, and in the ensuing firefight, Vers is separated from her unit and captured. The Skrulls bring her aboard their spacecraft, where they employ a device that probes deep into her memories, searching for specific information about something called a light speed engine. As the machine digs through Verse's fractured mind, it inadvertently unlocks suppressed memories, images of a life she does not recognize. She sees herself as a human pilot, flying experimental aircraft. She sees the mysterious woman from her dreams more clearly now, a scientist named Dr. Wendy Lawson. Most importantly, she sees the crash of an experimental plane and a blinding explosion of energy. These revelations confuse and anger Verse, who has been told by the Kree that she was born on Hala, that she is Kree through and through. Using her combat training and photon abilities, Verse breaks free from her restraints and fights her way through the Skrull ship. She reaches an escape pod and jettisons herself into space, but Talos and his soldiers pursue her. The chase leads through the atmosphere of the nearest planet, a world the Kree know as Planet Cs-53, but whose inhabitants call Earth. Verse's pod tears through the sky and crashes spectacularly through the roof of a Blockbuster video store in Los Angeles, scattering VHS tapes across the sales floor and terrifying the night shift employees. It is 1995, and Earth is blissfully unaware of the galactic conflicts raging beyond its atmosphere. The crash attracts the attention of SHIELD, the Strategic Homeland Intervention, Enforcement and Logistics Division, the same organization that Howard Stark helped establish decades earlier. Two agents arrive to investigate the unusual incident. Nick Fury, a mid-level agent with a reputation for competence and a healthy skepticism, and his partner, Phil Coulson, a by-the-book operative still early in his career. When they arrive at the Blockbuster, they find Verse in her green Kree Star Force uniform, clearly not from anywhere on Earth. Before they can properly detain her, a Skrull posing as a human attacks, revealing its true form in the struggle. Fury shoots the Skrull, but the creature's shape-shifting abilities shock him, confirming that aliens are real and already infiltrating Earth. Verse escapes in the confusion, determined to complete her mission and find the Skrulls who are searching for the Lightspeed engine. Verse tracks a signal to a bar where she hopes to find information, but her Kree uniform and strange behavior draw attention. Fury catches up with her, and after a tense confrontation, they form an uneasy alliance. Verse needs help navigating this unfamiliar planet, and Fury recognizes that she might be the key to understanding a threat he never knew existed. Together, they travel to the Project PEJ's U.S. facility, a joint NASA and U.S. Air Force installation where classified aerospace research takes place. The name PEGAS-US stands for Potential Energy Group, Alternate Sources, United States, and it is here that Dr. Wendy Lawson conducted her research in the late 1980s. At the facility, Verse discovers files that shake the foundation of everything she believes about herself. She learns that her real name is Carol Danvers, a U.S. Air Force pilot who flew test missions for Dr. Lawson. Photographs show Carol alongside another pilot, Maria Rambeau, her best friend and fellow aviator. The records reveal that 6 years earlier, in 1989, Carol and Dr. Lawson were flying an experimental aircraft powered by a revolutionary energy source when the plane was attacked and crashed. This is the crash from Carol's suppressed memories, the moment that changed everything. As Carol processes this information, Skrulls attack the facility, seeking the same records. In the chaos, Carol and Fury barely escape, and they realize they need to find Maria Rambeau, who might hold answers about Carol's past. They travel to Louisiana, where Maria Rambeau now lives with her young daughter, Monica. The reunion is emotional and revealing. Maria remembers Carol as her closest friend, a fearless pilot who disappeared 6 years ago and was presumed dead. Maria fills in the gaps in Carol's memory, describing their friendship, their shared dreams of flying, and the day Carol vanished. Monica, who called Carol Aunt Carol and idolized her, still has photographs and mementos from before the crash. These personal connections begin to crack the mental blocks the Kree implanted in Carol's mind. But the respite is brief. Talos and his Skrulls find them at Maria's home, and Carol prepares for battle. However, Talos does something unexpected. He does not attack. Instead, he reveals a recording from the black box of the experimental plane Carol and Dr. Lawson were flying. The recording shows the truth of that fateful day. Dr. Wendy Lawson was not human at all. She was Mar-Vell, a renegade Kree scientist who defected from the Empire because she opposed the Kree's genocidal war against the Skrulls. Mar-Vell had been working on a light-speed engine powered by the Tesseract, the same cosmic artifact that Red Skull sought during World War II and that Howard Stark later recovered from the ocean. Mar-Vell intended to use this technology to help the Skrulls escape Kree persecution and find a new home far from the war. The recording reveals that Yon-Rogg, Carol's mentor and commander, shot down their plane to stop Mar-Vell from completing her mission. In the wreckage, as Yon-Rogg approached to finish the job, Mar-Vell urged Carol to destroy the engine's core to prevent the Kree from obtaining the technology. Carol fired her weapon at the energy core, and the resulting explosion bathed her in the Tesseract's pure energy, imbuing her with extraordinary powers. But instead of killing her, the energy transformed her at a cellular level, granting her abilities that rivaled the cosmic forces themselves. Yon-Rogg, seeing an opportunity, took the unconscious Carol back to Hala, suppressed her memories, and implanted false ones, making her believe she was Kree. He fitted her with a device on her neck that limited her powers, keeping her under control while using her as a weapon for the Kree Empire. This revelation devastates Carol. Everything she believed about her identity, her purpose, and her loyalties was a lie. The Kree, who she thought were noble protectors, are actually the aggressors in the war, pursuing the Skrulls, not because the Skrulls are dangerous, but because the Skrulls refuse to submit to Kree rule. The Skrulls, portrayed by Kree propaganda as ruthless terrorists, are actually refugees fleeing genocide, families searching desperately for a safe haven. Talos explains that Mar-Vell hid a laboratory in orbit around Earth, a cloaked facility where she sheltered Skrull refugees, including Talos's wife and daughter. The Lightspeed engine is there, and the Skrulls need it to escape beyond the reach of the Kree Empire. Carol, Fury, Maria, Talos, and his lieutenant board a modified aircraft and fly into orbit, using coordinates from Mar-Vell's research. They locate the cloaked laboratory, a Kree vessel that Mar-Vell commandeered and converted into a sanctuary. Inside, they find not weapons or an invasion force, but Skrull families, children, and elders who have been hiding in space for years, waiting for a chance to find a new world. Among them are Talos's wife and daughter, a reunion that underscores the personal stakes of this conflict. The Lightspeed core is here, intact and functional, the key to their salvation. But the Kree Star Force, having tracked Carol's movements, arrives to seize the technology and eliminate the refugees. Yon-Rogg and the Supreme Intelligence confront Carol, attempting to reassert control over her. The Supreme Intelligence traps Carol in a mental prison, appearing to her as Mar-Vell and insisting that Carol is nothing without the Kree, that her powers are a gift from the Empire that can be taken away. But Carol realizes the truth. Her powers are not Kree. They came from the Tesseract, from the same cosmic energy that has appeared throughout history, from the same source that empowered the weapons Hydra built. The inhibitor chip on her neck is not protecting her, it is suppressing her. With an act of will, Carol breaks free from the Supreme Intelligence's control and tears the chip from her neck. Her powers explode outward, energy crackling across her body as she unlocks her full potential. Her eyes glow with photon energy, and she can now fly, project devastating energy blasts, and survive in the vacuum of space. She has become Captain Marvel, one of the most powerful beings in the universe. The battle that follows demonstrates Carol's newfound strength. She single-handedly dismantles Kree warships, tearing through their hulls and disabling their weapons. She defeats her former Star Force teammates without killing them, showing mercy even to those who deceived her. Jan Rog attempts to goad her into a hand-to-hand fight, appealing to the training he gave her, but Carol simply blasts him backward, refusing to prove herself on his terms. She sends him back to Hala with a message for the Supreme Intelligence. She will be watching, and if the Kree threaten Earth or continue hunting the Skrulls, she will return. With the immediate threat neutralized, Captain Marvel turns her attention to helping the refugees. She promises Talos and his people that she will use the lightspeed technology to help them find a new home, a planet far from the Kree Empire where they can live in peace. This mission will take her across the galaxy, far from Earth, but she knows it is the right thing to do, the completion of Mar-Vell's work. Before she leaves, Carol says goodbye to Maria and Monica, promising to return when she can. She also speaks with Nick Fury, who has been profoundly changed by these events. Fury has seen alien races, shapeshifters, and a human who can punch through spaceships. His worldview has expanded dramatically, and he realizes that Earth is woefully unprepared for the threats that exist beyond its atmosphere. Inspired by Carol's heroism and the call sign on her Air Force jet, which read Avenger, Fury decides to create a new initiative. He will seek out other extraordinary individuals, people with unique abilities or advanced technology, and bring them together to protect Earth from threats it cannot handle alone. He names this plan the Avenger Initiative, a project that will define the next phase of his career and shape the future of the planet. Carol gives Fury a modified pager, a communication device upgraded with Kree technology that can send a signal across light years of space. She tells him to use it only in emergencies, only when the situation is truly dire. Then Captain Marvel leaves Earth with the Skrulls, embarking on a journey into deep space that will keep her away from her home planet for more than 2 decades. As her ship vanishes into the stars, Nick Fury looks down at a scratch on his face, a wound given to him by Goose, a creature he thought was a cat, but which turned out to be a flurkin, an alien species with tentacles and pocket dimensions inside its body. The scratch will cost him his eye, but it is a small price for the knowledge he has gained. The universe is vast, dangerous, and full of wonders, and Earth needs to be ready. And so, with Captain Marvel's cosmic adventures, largely taking her away from Earth for decades, our timeline fast-forwards significantly. We jump from the mid-1990s to the year 2008, a pivotal moment that marks the true genesis of the modern superhero era within the Marvel Cinematic Universe. This is where the story of Iron Man truly begins, and with it, the interconnected web of heroes and villains we've come to know. Our focus lands squarely on Tony Stark, a name synonymous with genius, wealth, and at this point, unparalleled arrogance. Stark is not just a billionaire industrialist. He's the charismatic, albeit morally ambiguous, CEO of Stark Industries, a colossal defense contractor built on his family's legacy. He's also a world-renowned weapons manufacturer, a fact he wears with a certain cavalier pride. In 2008, Stark travels to Afghanistan, a region perpetually embroiled in conflict, to showcase his company's latest and most devastating creation, the Jericho missile. This weapon, a multi-payload, bunker-busting system, is designed to be a game changer on the battlefield, reflecting Stark's belief that he is, in his own words, privatizing peace. The demonstration is a spectacle of destruction, a testament to Stark Industries' technological prowess, and a stark, pun intended, reminder of the deadly nature of their business. However, the celebratory mood is short lived. Following the successful, if chilling, demonstration, Tony Stark's convoy, despite heavy security, is ambushed. The attackers are identified as the Ten Rings, a shadowy terrorist organization that will over time prove to have far reaching influence across the globe. The ambush is brutal and chaotic, a sudden eruption of violence that shatters Stark's insulated world. In a cruel twist of fate, a missile, one of his own Jericho prototypes, detonates near him, sending shrapnel deep into his chest. This injury is not merely physical, it's a profound shock to his system, a direct consequence of the very weapons he created. He is captured, dragged away from the wreckage, and his world, as he knows it, completely collapses. Stark finds himself held captive in a desolate cave, a stark contrast to the opulent life he once led. The Ten Rings, led by the ruthless Raza, demand that he build a Jericho missile for them, threatening his life and the lives of his fellow captives if he refuses. It's under these dire circumstances that Stark meets Ho Yinsen, a brilliant Afghan doctor and engineer who has also been imprisoned by the Ten Rings. Yinsen, with his quiet wisdom and unwavering moral compass, becomes an unlikely mentor and friend to the cynical Stark. Together, under the watchful eyes of their captors, they begin to work, seemingly complying with the terrorists' demands. However, Stark, ever the innovator, has a secret agenda. Instead of building a weapon of mass destruction for his captors, he secretly constructs a rudimentary armored suit, a clunky steam-powered contraption designed for one purpose: escape. Jensen, knowing the immense risk, aids him in every step, providing medical attention, technical insight, and moral support. The process is arduous, fraught with peril, and a testament to Stark's ingenuity under pressure. The moment of truth arrives. With the Mark Y suit, a raw, unrefined behemoth of steel and repurposed parts, complete, Stark initiates his escape. The suit, while powerful, is far from perfect, and the escape is a desperate, violent affair. Jensen, in a heroic act of self-sacrifice, distracts the Ten Rings long enough for Stark to power up the suit and make his move. Jensen's final words to Stark, "Don't waste your life," resonate deeply, a poignant reminder of the cost of freedom and a powerful catalyst for Stark's future transformation. The Mark the Bean, spewing fire and shrapnel, carves a path through the cave, destroying the Ten Rings' armory and inflicting heavy casualties. Stark, battered but alive, eventually crashes in the desert, his escape successful, but not without immense personal cost. He is later found and rescued by his loyal friend and military liaison, Lieutenant Colonel James Rhodey Rhodes, who had been tirelessly searching for him. Upon his dramatic return to the U.S., Tony Stark is a changed man. The experience in the cave, the near-death encounter, and Jensen's sacrifice have profoundly altered his perspective. In a shocking press conference, a disheveled but determined Stark announces that Stark Industries will immediately cease manufacturing weapons. This declaration sends shockwaves through the defense industry, and more importantly, through his own company. His longtime business partner and mentor, Obadiah Stane, is visibly dismayed, even furious, at this abrupt and financially devastating decision. Stane, a man driven by profit and power, sees Stark's change of heart as a betrayal of their legacy and a threat to his own ambitions. Undeterred by the corporate backlash, Stark retreats to his workshop, driven by a new purpose. The rudimentary Mark Ruction suit, while effective for escape, was a temporary solution. Now, fueled by a desire to atone for his past and inspired by Jensen's sacrifice, he refines his armor. His genius, once directed towards weapons of war, is now focused on protection and intervention. He creates the sleek, advanced Mark II suit, a prototype that allows for flight and enhanced capabilities. This is quickly followed by the iconic Mark III, painted in the now famous red and gold, equipped with an array of repulsor blasts, guided missiles, and a sophisticated artificial intelligence system named JARVIS, just a rather very intelligent system. With these suits, Tony Stark begins his journey as Iron Man, a self appointed protector. He intervenes in global conflicts, not as a weapons supplier, but as a force for good. He rescues civilians, dismantles terrorist cells, and in doing so, starts to earn a reputation, becoming a mysterious, high flying hero. However, while Stark is busy building his new legacy, a sinister plot unfolds behind the scenes. Obadiah Stane, consumed by jealousy and a desire to regain control of Stark Industries' weapons manufacturing, reveals his true colors. It becomes clear that Stane had been secretly involved in supplying weapons to the Ten Rings, the very group that captured Stark. He had orchestrated the ambush, hoping to eliminate Tony and take over the company. Now, seeing Stark's new armored suits, Stane becomes obsessed with replicating the technology. He covertly acquires the Mark Storn suit from the Ten Rings wreckage and attempts to reverse engineer Stark's designs. His efforts culminate in the creation of a much larger, more powerful armored suit, a hulking monstrosity he dubs Ironmonger. Stane, now fully embracing his villainous role, intends to use this suit to eliminate Tony and re-establish Stark Industries as the world's premier weapons manufacturer. The inevitable confrontation arrives. Iron Man, still learning the full extent of his capabilities, faces off against the formidable Ironmonger in a destructive battle over Los Angeles. The fight is a brutal clash of technology and wills, with Stane's raw power pitted against Stark's agility and ingenuity. The battle culminates in a desperate struggle at Stark Industries, where Tony, with the help of his assistant Pepper Potts, manages to overload the arc reactor, the powerful energy source that powers both his suit and the Stark Industries building. The resulting energy surge incapacitates Stane and destroys the Ironmonger suit, seemingly ending Obadiah Stane's reign of terror. In the aftermath, the world is left reeling from the appearance of these armored individuals. The government, attempting to control the narrative, prepares a cover story for Stark, suggesting his armored alter ego was merely a bodyguard. But Tony Stark, ever the Maverick, has one last surprise. In a moment of defiant honesty during a press conference, he publicly reveals his identity, declaring, "I am Iron Man." This single statement shatters the traditional superhero paradigm, igniting a new era where heroes operate openly and the world is forever changed. This bold declaration not only cemented Iron Man's place in the public consciousness, but also laid the groundwork for the interconnected universe that would soon follow, signaling to the world that the age of heroes had truly begun. From the genesis of Iron Man, we shift our focus to another pivotal origin story unfolding concurrently in the year 2008, a narrative that would irrevocably alter the landscape of superhuman capabilities within this burgeoning universe. This is the story of Bruce Banner and the emergence of the Hulk, a tale steeped in scientific ambition, military pursuit, and the desperate search for control. Our journey begins with Dr. Bruce Banner, a brilliant but unassuming scientist caught in a catastrophic experiment gone awry. While working on a project for General Thaddeus Thunderbolt Ross, a program aimed at recreating the super soldier serum that created Captain America during World War II, Banner is exposed to a massive dose of gamma radiation. Instead of perishing or simply being poisoned, The radiation fundamentally alters his physiology, transforming him into a monstrous, rage-fueled behemoth of incredible strength and destructive power whenever his heart rate elevates beyond a certain point. This initial, uncontrolled transformation is a terrifying ordeal, leaving a trail of destruction and marking Banner as a dangerous anomaly in the eyes of the United States military, particularly General Ross, who views the Hulk as his personal property and a national security threat. The immediate aftermath of this incident forces Banner into a life of desperate solitude and constant flight. Pursued relentlessly by General Ross and his forces, Banner flees the United States, finding a precarious refuge in the bustling favelas of Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. Here, he attempts to disappear, to become a ghost in a vibrant, sprawling metropolis. His days are a meticulously choreographed dance of self-control, working anonymously in a bottling factory, a deceptively mundane setting for a man harboring such a destructive secret. His primary focus is twofold: to avoid any emotional or physical stress that might trigger a transformation, meticulously monitoring his heart rate with custom-built biofeedback devices, and to clandestinely seek a cure for his condition, communicating with an unknown online associate known only as Mr. Blue. This period in Brazil highlights Banner's profound internal struggle, his deep-seated desire to rid himself of the curse that is the Hulk, and his unwavering commitment to preventing further harm. He learns Portuguese, maintains a low profile, and even practices calming breathing techniques, all in a desperate bid to keep the beast at bay. However, Banner's efforts to remain hidden are ultimately futile. General Ross, with his unwavering determination and vast resources, eventually tracks Banner's whereabouts to Brazil. This discovery ignites a new phase of the pursuit, as Ross deploys a specialized military unit, led by the highly skilled and ruthlessly ambitious British Royal Marine Emil Blonsky, to apprehend Banner. Blonsky is a seasoned combat veteran, but his inherent desire for a challenge, for an adversary worthy of his abilities, makes him uniquely suited and perhaps dangerously predisposed to this mission. The confrontation culminates in a chaotic and destructive battle within the very bottling factory where Banner has been working. The military, armed with advanced weaponry and tactical precision, attempts to corner Banner. But when cornered, the Hulk emerges, showcasing his immense power and resilience against conventional firearms and military tactics, ultimately escaping Blonsky and his team, leaving a trail of wreckage and confirming the sheer impossibility of capturing the creature through conventional means. This encounter fuels Blonsky's growing obsession with Banner's power, a desire to understand and, perhaps even replicate it. Driven by this burgeoning obsession and a personal sense of inadequacy after his defeat by the Hulk, Emil Blonsky makes a fateful decision. He volunteers for an experimental procedure, undergoing a super soldier serum treatment, a modified version of the very serum that General Ross was attempting to recreate. This serum, while not replicating the Hulk's gamma-fueled strength, significantly enhances Blonsky's physical attributes, granting him increased speed, strength, agility, and durability. He becomes a formidable soldier, a superhuman combatant. But this enhancement also begins to subtly warp his psyche, amplifying his aggression and further fueling his hunger for power, pushing him closer to the very monstrousness he was initially tasked with combating. This transformation is a critical step in his descent, setting the stage for his ultimate mutation. Meanwhile, Banner, having narrowly escaped Blonsky and the military in Brazil, makes the perilous journey back to the United States. His objective is clear: to seek out the one person he believes can help him, the mysterious Mr. Blue, who is revealed to be Dr. Samuel Stearns, a brilliant but ethically ambiguous cellular biologist based at Grayburn College in New York City. Stearns has been corresponding with Banner, offering hope for a cure by studying samples of Banner's blood. Banner's return to American soil is fraught with danger, as he is a wanted man, but his desperation to rid himself of the Hulk outweighs the risks. He makes contact with Stearns, who believes he has found a way to potentially reverse Banner's condition, or at least control his transformations. However, their efforts are violently interrupted. General Ross, still relentlessly pursuing Banner, tracks him to Stearns' laboratory. In a shocking turn of events, Emil Blonsky, now enhanced by the super soldier serum and consumed by his desire for even greater power, intervenes. He forces Stearns, at gunpoint, to inject him with a sample of Banner's gamma-irradiated blood. This reckless act, combined with the super soldier serum already coursing through Blonsky's veins, unleashes a horrifying and uncontrolled transformation. Blonsky mutates into a grotesque, bone-plated, and immensely powerful creature of pure rage and destruction, far more monstrous and uncontrollable than even the Hulk himself. This new entity is dubbed the Abomination, a truly terrifying force of nature, a twisted reflection of Banner's own affliction, but devoid of any of Banner's inherent humanity or moral compass. Stearns, inadvertently exposed to some of Banner's blood during the chaos, also begins to exhibit a strange mutation, his head expanding, hinting at a future, more sinister transformation. The emergence of the Abomination plunges Harlem, New York City, into utter chaos. The Abomination, fueled by destructive instinct and a desire to prove his superiority, unleashes untold devastation upon the city. General Ross and the military are powerless to stop him, their conventional weaponry proving utterly ineffective against the creature's immense strength and durability. In this desperate hour, with the city teetering on the brink of complete annihilation, the only hope lies with the very monster the military has been hunting, the Hulk. Bruce Banner, recognizing the catastrophic threat posed by the Abomination, makes the conscious decision to unleash his alter ego, accepting for the first time that the Hulk is not just a curse, but a necessary force. The ensuing battle between the Hulk and the Abomination is a cataclysmic clash of titans, a brutal, city-leveling brawl that showcases the raw, unbridled power of these gamma-fueled beings. Buildings are torn asunder, vehicles are tossed like toys, and the very ground trembles under their blows. Ultimately, with immense effort and a newfound, albeit temporary, understanding of his own power, the Hulk defeats the Abomination, incapacitating him and saving Betty Ross, General Ross's daughter and Banner's former love interest, who has been caught in the crossfire. This victory, however, is not a cure for Banner, but a temporary reprieve, solidifying his status as a powerful, yet still tormented figure within the world. The Abomination is eventually contained by the military, a living testament to the dangers of unchecked scientific ambition and the desire for power. The events of this film firmly establish the Hulk as a formidable and unpredictable force, a key player in the unfolding narrative of superpowered individuals and a constant source of both fear and fascination. Moving into 2009, we find Tony Stark, the self-proclaimed Iron Man, grappling with a new, insidious threat, his own technology. The very arc reactor that sustained his life and powered his suits was, ironically, slowly killing him. The palladium core, a vital component of the device, was poisoning his blood, leaving him with a rapidly deteriorating physical state and an increasingly reckless outlook on life. This internal struggle played out against a backdrop of mounting external pressures, as the United States government, among others, demanded he hand over his Iron Man technology for military application. Stark, ever the iconoclast, refused, famously declaring that he had privatized world peace. While Stark wrestled with his mortality, a new adversary emerged, fueled by a deep-seated vendetta against the Stark legacy. Even Vanko, a brilliant but embittered Russian physicist, believed his father, Anton Vanko, had been wronged by Howard Stark, Tony's father. Anton Vanko, according to his son, was the true co-inventor of the arc reactor, his contribution stolen, and his name erased from history by the opportunistic Howard Stark. Driven by this perceived injustice, Ivan Vanko, adopting the moniker Whiplash, meticulously crafted his own wearable arc reactor technology, integrating it with a pair of devastating electrified whips. His singular goal was to publicly humiliate and ultimately destroy Tony Stark, believing this would avenge his father's memory. Vanko made his dramatic debut at the Monaco Grand Prix, a high-profile event where Tony Stark, in a moment of characteristic impulsiveness, decided to race one of his own cars. As Stark navigated the track, Vanko, clad in his makeshift armored suit, burst onto the scene, his powerful whips tearing through vehicles and infrastructure with terrifying efficiency. The attack was swift, brutal, and designed to send a clear message. Stark, without his full Iron Man armor, was forced to improvise, using a portable suit module to engage Vanko in a desperate, impromptu battle. Though Stark ultimately subdued Vanko, the incident served as a stark reminder of the vulnerabilities inherent in his public persona and the dangers lurking in the shadows of his family's past. The world, and more importantly, Tony Stark himself, now knew the name Ivan Vanko. The spectacle of Vanko's attack did not go unnoticed by Justin Hammer, a rival weapons manufacturer and CEO of Hammer Industries. Hammer, perpetually overshadowed by Stark Industries, saw an opportunity to capitalize on Vanko's genius and his animosity towards Tony Stark. Recognizing Vanko's potential to develop advanced weaponry that could finally compete with, and ideally surpass, Iron Man technology, Hammer orchestrated Vanko's escape from prison. His plan was simple: provide Vanko with the resources and freedom to develop a new generation of armored suits and drones for the United States military, thereby securing lucrative government contracts and finally dethroning Stark Industries as the premier defense contractor. Vanko, driven by his desire for revenge, readily agreed, seeing Hammer as a means to an end. As his health continued to decline, Tony Stark, in a rare moment of introspection and vulnerability, began to put his affairs in order. Recognizing Pepper Potts' unwavering loyalty, exceptional business acumen, and deep understanding of Stark Industries, he made the momentous decision to appoint her as the company's new CEO. This move was not merely a symbolic gesture, it was a genuine attempt to ensure the stability and future of his company, a tacit acknowledgement that his own time might be drawing short. It also reflected a growing trust and affection between the two, a relationship that had evolved significantly since Pepper first became his personal assistant. Stark, despite his bravado, was clearly preparing for the worst, attempting to secure his legacy and protect those he cared about. During this tumultuous period, a new face entered Tony Stark's inner circle, ostensibly as his new assistant. Natalie Rushman, a seemingly unassuming and highly efficient employee, was in fact Natasha Romanoff, a highly trained operative of SHIELD, the Strategic Homeland Intervention, Enforcement and Logistics Division. Romanoff, operating undercover, was tasked with assessing Tony Stark's suitability for the Avengers Initiative, a top-secret program designed to assemble a team of extraordinary individuals to protect the Earth from global threats. Her mission was to observe Stark's behavior, evaluate his mental and physical state, and determine if his erratic tendencies and declining health would compromise his effectiveness as a potential Avenger. Her presence added another layer of intrigue and surveillance to Stark's increasingly complicated life. The escalating threat posed by Ivan Vanko and Justin Hammer, coupled with Tony Stark's increasingly self destructive behavior, led to a critical turning point for James Rhodes, Stark's best friend and a United States Air Force colonel. Frustrated by Stark's refusal to hand over the Iron Man technology to the military and deeply concerned about his friend's health, Rhodes took matters into his own hands. During a particularly chaotic and intoxicated party at Stark's mansion, Rhodes, in a desperate attempt to protect Stark and the technology, donned one of the Iron Man suits. After a brief but destructive confrontation with Tony, Rhodes flew off with the suit, delivering it to the military. There, Justin Hammer, seizing another opportunity, eagerly weaponized the armor, transforming it into the formidable War Machine suit, a heavily armed counterpart to Iron Man. This act solidified Rhodes's role as a military asset and a potential foil to Stark's independent heroics. The climax of this period arrived at the Stark Expo, a grand technological exhibition designed by Tony Stark to showcase the innovations of Stark Industries. Justin Hammer, eager to unveil his new military hardware, took center stage, presenting a seemingly impressive array of armored drones, and most significantly, the War Machine suit, now piloted by a mind-controlled Ivan Vanko. Vanko, having secretly integrated a backdoor into Hammer's systems, seized control of both the drones and War Machine, unleashing a devastating attack on the Expo attendees and targeting Tony Stark directly. Tony, having finally developed a new, non-palladium-based arc reactor core with the help of his father's hidden research, arrived in a new Iron Man suit, ready to confront Vanko. James Rhodes, freed from Vanko's control by Natasha Romanoff, joined the fray as War Machine, fighting alongside Iron Man against the drone army and Vanko's increasingly powerful Whiplash suit. The two heroes, working in tandem, eventually defeated Vanko, destroying his suit and the remaining drones, and exposing Justin Hammer's treacherous scheme. The Stark Expo, initially a celebration of innovation, became a battleground, a testament to the ongoing struggle between technological advancement and its potential for misuse. Continuing our journey through the modern era of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, we arrive at 2010, a pivotal year that sees the introduction of Asgardian mythology into the burgeoning superhero landscape. While Tony Stark navigates the complexities of his public identity and corporate struggles, a cosmic drama unfolds light years away, directly impacting Earth. This year marks the fateful Thor's banishment, an event that fundamentally reshapes the life of the God of Thunder and sets in motion a chain of events with galaxy-spanning consequences. The story begins on Asgard, the golden realm of the Norse gods, where the impetuous Prince Thor, heir apparent to the throne, chafes under the perceived inaction of his father, Odin, the Allfather. News of frost giants, the ancient enemies of Asgard, breaching their peace treaty by attempting to steal the casket of ancient winters from Odin's vault, ignites Thor's warrior's pride. Defying Odin's direct orders, Thor, accompanied by his loyal brother Loki, the cunning god of mischief, and his trusted companions, Lady Sif and the Warriors Three, Volstagg, Fandral, and Hogun, embarks on a dangerous, unsanctioned journey to Jotunheim, the desolate, ice-covered realm of the frost giants. Their intent is to confront Laufey, the king of the frost giants, and demand answers for the incursion. This act of defiance, fueled by arrogance and a desire for glory, quickly escalates into a full-scale battle. The Asgardians, though formidable, are outnumbered and outmatched by the sheer force of the frost giants on their home turf. Just as the tide turns decisively against them, Odin, alerted to his son's recklessness, intervenes. With a display of his immense power, Odin single-handedly quells the conflict, saving his son and his companions from certain death. However, Odin's relief is quickly overshadowed by his fury at Thor's blatant disobedience and the near catastrophic consequences of his actions. In a moment of profound disappointment and a desperate attempt to teach his arrogant son humility, Odin strips Thor of his godly powers, casting him out of Asgard. He also places a powerful enchantment upon Thor's legendary hammer, Mjolnir, decreeing that whosoever holds this hammer, if he be worthy, shall possess the power of Thor. Both Thor and Mjolnir are then banished to Earth, a realm Odin believes will provide the necessary lessons in humility and worthiness. Thor's arrival on Earth is anything but graceful. He crash lands in the desert of New Mexico, a stark contrast to the grandeur of Asgard. His descent is observed by a team of astrophysicists, Dr. Jane Foster, her assistant Darcy Lewis, and her mentor Dr. Eric Selvig, who are investigating an unusual atmospheric phenomenon. Thor, disoriented and powerless, is promptly hit by Jane Foster's research vehicle. This rather unceremonious introduction to Earth leads to him being taken to a local hospital, where his strange behavior and claims of being a god are met with understandable skepticism and amusement. Meanwhile, back on Asgard, a more sinister drama unfolds. Loki, ever the schemer and always feeling overshadowed by his boisterous brother, discovers a shocking truth about his own origins. He learns that he is not Odin's biological son, but rather a frost giant, abandoned by Lofe and adopted by Odin after the last great war between Asgard and Jotunheim. This revelation shatters Loki's understanding of himself and his place in Asgard, fueling a deep-seated identity crisis and a burning resentment towards Odin for concealing the truth. This newfound knowledge, coupled with his long-standing envy of Thor, sets Loki on a path of manipulation and betrayal. On Earth, the arrival of Mjolnir, now embedded in a crater in the New Mexico desert, does not go unnoticed. SHIELD, the Strategic Homeland Intervention, Enforcement and Logistics Division, a covert government agency dedicated to protecting Earth from extraordinary threats, quickly establishes a perimeter around the hammer's landing site. Led by the ever-resourceful agent Phil Coulson, SHIELD agents attempt to study the mysterious artifact, recognizing its immense power and extraterrestrial origin. Their efforts to move or even understand Mjolnir prove fruitless, as the enchantment placed upon it by Odin renders it immovable to anyone deemed unworthy. Thor, having escaped the hospital and learned of Mjolnir's location, infiltrates the heavily guarded SHIELD facility. Driven by a desperate hope to reclaim his power and return to Asgard, he confronts the hammer. However, despite his lineage and his past wielding of Mjolnir, he is unable to lift it. This moment of profound failure confirms his unworthiness in Odin's eyes and forces him to confront the true extent of his banishment. It is a humbling experience, forcing Thor to begin a difficult journey of self-reflection and growth, aided by the kindness and scientific curiosity of Jane Foster. The situation on Asgard deteriorates further. Loki, seizing the opportunity presented by Thor's banishment and Odin's subsequent exhaustion from the events, manipulates his father into a deep, magical sleep known as the Odin Sleep, a period of rejuvenation for the All-Father. With Odin incapacitated, Loki assumes the throne of Asgard as regent. His first act, driven by a desire to consolidate his power and eliminate his brother, is to send the Destroyer to Earth. The Destroyer, a formidable, enchanted automaton, is dispatched with the explicit instruction to eliminate Thor and anyone who stands in its way. The Destroyer's arrival on Earth is catastrophic. It lays waste to the small New Mexico town where Thor has been staying, demonstrating its immense power and destructive capabilities. In a selfless act of courage and a profound display of his newfound humility, Thor, Still powerless, sacrifices himself to protect the townspeople from the destroyer's wrath. He stands before the automaton, offering his life in exchange for the safety of the innocent. This act of true selflessness, a stark contrast to his earlier arrogance, proves his worthiness in the eyes of the enchantment. As the destroyer delivers a seemingly fatal blow, Mjolnir, recognizing Thor's newfound worth, flies to his hand. With his powers restored and Mjolnir firmly in his grasp, Thor quickly dispatches the destroyer, protecting his newfound friends and demonstrating his evolution from an arrogant prince to a true hero. This pivotal moment not only marks Thor's redemption, but also solidifies his connection to Earth, setting the stage for his future involvement in the planet's defense. Following the tumultuous events on Asgard and the earth-shattering confrontation in Puente Antiguo, the cosmic ripples of the Tesseract, that immensely powerful, cube-shaped container for the Space Stone, continued to create unforeseen consequences. Just a few short years after Thor's banishment, in 2012, Earth found itself once again at the precipice of an intergalactic conflict, unknowingly targeted by forces far beyond its comprehension. This year marks the pivotal moment when the concept of superpowered individuals, once disparate and largely unknown to one another, coalesced into a unified front. The Avengers assemble. The catalyst for this monumental gathering was the very artifact SHIELD, the Strategic Homeland Intervention, Enforcement, and Logistics Division had been studying for decades, the Tesseract. Unknown to Earth's defenders, the cube possessed the ability to open wormholes across vast cosmic distances. Loki, the god of mischief, having survived his apparent demise at the hands of the destroyer and his subsequent imprisonment on Asgard, was granted access to this power by a shadowy benefactor. He utilized the Tesseract to create a portal, a shimmering, unstable gateway between worlds, and through it, he materialized within a top-secret SHIELD research facility. His arrival was not merely a dramatic entrance, it was a calculated strike. Loki's primary objective was to reclaim the Tesseract, which he had been promised by his mysterious patron, and to exploit its energy for a far grander and far more sinister purpose. Upon his dramatic arrival, Loki was not unarmed. He wielded a powerful staff, later known as the Scepter, which housed the Mind Stone, one of the 6 Infinity Stones, though its true nature was then unknown to Earth's inhabitants. This scepter possessed the terrifying ability to subjugate the will of others, turning them into loyal, albeit unwilling, servants. Loki wasted no time in demonstrating its power. Among the key personnel at the SHIELD facility was Clint Barton, a highly skilled SHIELD agent, codenamed Hawkeye, renowned for his unparalleled archery and tactical prowess. With a mere touch of the scepter to Barton's chest, Loki bent the agent to his will, transforming a trusted defender into a dangerous adversary. Similarly, Dr. Eric Selvig, the brilliant astrophysicist who had been instrumental in studying the Tesseract, also fell victim to the scepter's insidious influence. With these two key individuals under his control, Loki gained invaluable access to SHIELD's advanced technology, strategic intelligence, and the very Tesseract he sought to weaponize. This infiltration represented a grave breach of Earth's defenses, signaling an imminent threat of unprecedented scale. The sudden, violent incursion and the loss of the Tesseract sent shockwaves through SHIELD's highest echelons. Director Nick Fury, the enigmatic and resourceful head of the organization, understood the gravity of the situation. He recognized that conventional military responses would be insufficient against a foe possessing such advanced technology and seemingly supernatural abilities. It was then that Fury, with the unwavering support of Agent Phil Coulson, a dedicated and principled SHIELD operative, made the executive decision to activate the Avengers Initiative. This was a program, long in development and often met with skepticism, designed to unite extraordinary individuals, those with unique abilities, and a willingness to fight for humanity, into a single, cohesive unit. The time had come to assemble Earth's mightiest heroes. The first among these heroes to be formally brought into the fold, though his reintroduction to the world was anything but conventional, was Captain Steve Rogers. Frozen in ice since the end of World War II, Captain America, the legendary super soldier, had been recently discovered and revived. His awakening thrust him into a world radically different from the one he had known, a world of advanced technology, moral complexities, and a pace of life that was jarringly unfamiliar. Fury and Coulson knew that Rogers' unwavering moral compass, his tactical genius, and his unparalleled combat skills would be indispensable. However, Captain America struggled significantly with adapting to this new modern era. The cultural shifts, the technological leaps, and the loss of everyone he had ever known weighed heavily on him, creating a poignant contrast between his steadfast heroism and his personal disorientation. Despite these challenges, his sense of duty remained absolute, and he answered the call to defend the world once more. Next to be recruited was Dr. Bruce Banner, the brilliant but tormented scientist whose exposure to gamma radiation had transformed him into the Incredible Hulk, a creature of immense strength and destructive power. Banner had spent years living off the grid, constantly on the run, fearing the uncontrollable rage that unleashed his monstrous alter ego. He was initially hesitant to engage, deeply reluctant to unleash the Hulk, understanding the potential for catastrophic collateral damage. However, Fury and Coulson presented him with a compelling reason. His expertise in gamma radiation and his prior research into cosmic energy made him uniquely qualified to help SHIELD track the Tesseract and understand its properties. Recognizing the dire threat Loki posed, Banner, despite his profound personal reservations, agreed to lend his intellect and potentially his other self to the cause. The assembly of these extraordinary individuals culminated aboard the helicarrier, SHIELD's Revolutionary Flying Aircraft Carrier, a marvel of engineering and a symbol of Earth's advanced defense capabilities. Here, Captain America, Iron Man, Tony Stark, who had been independently investigating Loki's activities, Bruce Banner, and Thor, who had returned to Earth seeking Loki, converged. However, this initial gathering was far from harmonious. The strong personalities, differing ideologies, and past experiences of these heroes led to significant internal conflicts. Tony Stark's sardonic wit clashed with Captain America's earnestness. Banner's quiet apprehension contrasted with Thor's boisterous declarations. Loki, ever the master manipulator, exploited these nascent tensions, using his psychological prowess to sow discord and suspicion among the nascent team. He deliberately provoked them, revealing SHIELD's secret plans to weaponize the Tesseract, further fueling the distrust among the heroes. This calculated manipulation culminated in a major confrontation on the helicarrier's bridge, a heated argument that escalated into physical altercations, nearly tearing the team apart before it had even truly formed. Amidst the chaos and infighting, Loki seized his opportunity. He orchestrated a diversion, allowing a group of his mind-controlled agents, including Hawkeye, to disable critical systems on the helicarrier. In the ensuing pandemonium, Loki escaped the flying fortress, his mission to further destabilize Earth's defenses well underway. His next move was to make a public spectacle of his power, to demonstrate to humanity the futility of resistance. This led the Avengers to confront him in Stuttgart, Germany. In a chilling display of his arrogance and cruelty, Loki demanded that a crowd of German citizens kneel before him, declaring himself their rightful king. It was here that Captain America, Iron Man, and Thor, despite their earlier disagreements, began to truly function as a unit. Captain America's unwavering courage, Iron Man's technological might, and Thor's raw power combined to apprehend Loki, bringing him into SHIELD custody. This public defeat, however, was merely another calculated step in Loki's grand scheme. Loki's capture was a temporary setback, a mere pause before the true invasion began. With Dr. Selvig still under his thrall, Loki directed the brilliant scientist to construct a device capable of stabilizing and enlarging the Tesseract's portal opening capabilities. Using Stark Tower, Tony Stark's iconic skyscraper in the heart of New York City, as a conduit, Loki unleashed his ultimate weapon. He opened a massive, swirling portal high above the city, a terrifying gateway through which poured the Chitauri army, a technologically advanced alien race serving Loki's shadowy benefactor. The invasion of New York City had begun. Swarms of Chitauri soldiers on their flying chariots, along with colossal leviathans, armored serpent-like creatures, descended upon the metropolis, wreaking havoc and sowing terror. This unprovoked alien assault forced the Avengers to finally put aside their differences and unite as a cohesive fighting force. The Battle of New York became a defining moment for Earth's heroes. Captain America led with his tactical brilliance, directing the team and inspiring civilians. Iron Man soared through the skies, engaging Chitauri chariots and leviathans with his repulsor blasts and missiles. Thor's mighty Mjolnir cleaved through alien ranks, summoning lightning to devastate their forces. Hulk, unleashed in his full, unbridled fury, became an unstoppable force of destruction, smashing through enemies with primal power. Black Widow, Natasha Romanoff, and Hawkeye, having been freed from Loki's mind control, demonstrated their exceptional combat skills and strategic acumen, providing crucial support on the ground. The battle was fierce, chaotic, and pushed the Avengers to their absolute limits. The tide began to turn when Iron Man, in a heroic act of self-sacrifice, intercepted a nuclear missile launched by the World Security Council, redirecting it through the portal and into the Chitauri fleet in space. The explosion destroyed the Chitauri command ship, severing the connection to their forces on Earth and effectively ending the invasion. The portal closed, leaving behind a devastated but victorious New York City and a world forever changed by the knowledge that humanity was not alone and that it possessed defenders capable of standing against cosmic threats. The aftermath of the Battle of New York saw Loki taken back to Asgard for justice and the Tesseract secured, but the true mastermind behind the invasion remained shrouded in mystery. However, a chilling post-credits scene provided a glimpse into the larger cosmic tapestry. High above Earth, on a desolate alien world, a powerful purple-skinned figure known only as Thanos was revealed. He was shown being informed of Loki's failure and Earth's unexpected resilience. Thanos, with a terrifying smile, acknowledged the strength of humanity's heroes, recognizing them as a formidable challenge. This ominous revelation confirmed that Loki was merely a pawn in a much larger, more terrifying game, and that the events of 2012 were just the beginning of a cosmic saga that would ultimately determine the fate of the entire universe. The Avengers had assembled, but the true threat was yet to come. The cataclysmic Battle of New York, a pivotal moment we just explored, left an indelible mark on the world, but perhaps no one was more profoundly affected than Tony Stark himself. As the calendar turned to 2012, marking the contemporary era for our timeline, Stark found himself grappling with the psychological fallout of his near-death experience in space. This is the period of Iron Man 366, a story that delves deep into the personal cost of heroism. Tony, once the epitome of unflappable confidence, now suffered from debilitating post traumatic stress disorder, or PTSD. The anxiety attacks were relentless, triggered by anything that reminded him of the Chitauri invasion, particularly the wormhole. He found solace, or perhaps a desperate distraction, in an obsessive pursuit building. His Malibu mansion, once a testament to his playboy lifestyle, transformed into a veritable Iron Man factory. He created suit after suit, each a minor variation, an incremental improvement, a futile attempt to regain control in a world that felt increasingly unpredictable. This was his coping mechanism, a technological fortress against the terrors that haunted his waking hours and his nightmares. He even developed the House Party Protocol, an entire legion of autonomous Iron Man armors, each with a specialized function designed to protect the world, or perhaps just to quell his own anxieties. His fragile peace was shattered, however, when a new and terrifying threat emerged. A shadowy terrorist leader, known only as the Mandarin, began orchestrating a series of devastating bombings across the globe. These attacks were characterized by their untraceable nature, leaving no forensic evidence, only a chilling message from the Mandarin himself. One such attack, a horrific explosion at the TCL Chinese Theater, critically injured Happy Hogan, Tony's loyal head of security and longtime friend. Seeing Happy, a man who had been with him through thick and thin, lying in a coma, ignited a furious rage within Tony. He publicly challenged the Mandarin, broadcasting his home address to the world, a reckless act born of grief and a desperate need for retribution. This impulsive declaration, however, had dire consequences. The Mandarin's forces, led by the enigmatic Savin, wasted no time in retaliating. Tony's iconic Malibu mansion, a symbol of his power and ingenuity, was subjected to a brutal aerial assault. The sheer scale of the attack, utilizing advanced weaponry and the seemingly superhuman abilities of the Mandarin's operatives, overwhelmed Tony's defenses. His beloved home was reduced to rubble, crumbling into the Pacific Ocean. In the chaos, Tony narrowly escaped, piloting a prototype suit, the Mark 42, which was still in its experimental stages and prone to malfunction. The suit, damaged and running on minimal power, crash-landed in the snowy rural landscape of Rose Hill, Tennessee, leaving Tony stranded, vulnerable, and far from his technological sanctuary. In this unlikely setting, Tony encountered Harley Keener, a precocious and resourceful young boy who, despite his initial skepticism, became an invaluable ally. With Harley's help, providing a garage to tinker in and a much-needed dose of youthful optimism, Tony began to piece together the puzzle of the Mandarin's attacks. He discovered a sinister connection to the extremis virus, a highly volatile bioenhancement technology that granted its subjects incredible regenerative abilities, superhuman strength, and a fiery internal glow, but also made them prone to explosive combustion if their core body temperature became unstable. This dangerous technology, Tony soon learned, was the brainchild of Aldrich Killian, a brilliant but embittered scientist whom Tony had once rudely dismissed years prior. Killian's organization, Advanced Idea Mechanics, or AIM, was at the heart of the conspiracy. The investigation led Tony to a shocking revelation. The Mandarin was not the terrifying global terrorist he appeared to be. Instead, he was merely an actor, a flamboyant and drug-addled Englishman named Trevor Slattery, hired by Killian to be the public face of his terror campaign. This elaborate charade was designed to distract from Killian's true objective, to destabilize global governments and profit from the subsequent demand for his extremis-enhanced soldiers. The real mastermind, the true villain, was Aldrich Killian, a man consumed by a desire for power and revenge against those who had dismissed him. The confrontation with Killian escalated rapidly, culminating in a harrowing sequence of events. Killian, having captured Pepper Potts, Tony's girlfriend and CEO of Stark Industries, subjected her to the extremis injection. He intended to use her as leverage, or perhaps simply to inflict maximum pain on Tony. Witnessing Pepper, seemingly consumed by the volatile extremis, fall to her apparent death further fueled Tony's already burning resolve. The stakes had never been higher, not just for the world, but for the woman he loved. The final showdown took place on an abandoned oil rig, a fittingly industrial backdrop for a technological battle. Tony, now joined by James Rhodey Rhodes, who was operating as the Iron Patriot, a rebranded War Machine suit, confronted Killian and his army of extremist soldiers. The battle was fierce, a whirlwind of advanced technology and superhuman combat. Tony, utilizing his ingenuity and the remaining Iron Man suits from his house party protocol, fought alongside Rhodey against the seemingly unstoppable, extremist-powered adversaries. The climax arrived when Pepper, who had miraculously survived the extremist injection and now possessed its powers, intervened. Her latent extremist abilities manifested, giving her incredible strength and heat generation. In a stunning display of newfound power, Pepper unleashed a fiery blast that incinerated Killian, bringing an end to his reign of terror. In the aftermath, a profound shift occurred within Tony. The ordeal, the near loss of Pepper, and his own battle with PTSD led him to a pivotal decision. He initiated the Clean Slate Protocol, destroying all of his Iron Man suits in a spectacular fireworks display, a symbolic act of letting go of his reliance on the armor. He vowed to protect Pepper Potts, not with technology, but with his own presence and dedication. Furthermore, he underwent a complex surgical procedure to remove the shrapnel that had been lodged near his heart since his very first Iron Man suit, a constant reminder of his past and a limiting factor in his life. This surgery, a triumph of medical science, signified his move beyond Iron Man, not in abandoning his heroic spirit, but in redefining what it meant to be Tony Stark. He was no longer just the man in the suit. He was a man who had faced his demons, overcome his trauma, and emerged stronger, more focused, and more committed to his personal life than ever before. This marked a significant turning point in his journey, setting the stage for his future endeavors, both as a hero and as a man. Following the events of the Mandarin Crisis, we now shift our focus beyond Earth to the cosmic realms, specifically Asgard, in the year 2013. This marks a pivotal moment for the thunder god, Thor, and his mischievous brother, Loki. As you'll recall, Loki's attempted conquest of Earth, culminating in the Battle of New York, earned him a rather lengthy sentence. He finds himself imprisoned in the deepest dungeons of Asgard, a prisoner of his own making, reflecting on the consequences of his ambition and treachery. His cell, a magically reinforced enclosure, is a stark contrast to the opulence of the royal palace, a constant reminder of his fall from grace. He is visited by Frigga, his adoptive mother, who, despite his transgressions, still holds a deep affection for him, attempting to guide him back to a path of redemption, albeit with little success. Meanwhile, Thor, ever the protector of the Nine Realms, is engaged in a relentless campaign to restore order across the cosmic expanse. These realms, interconnected by the Bifrost and the branches of Yggdrasil, the World Tree, have been thrown into chaos following the destruction of the Bifrost Bridge in the first Thor film. Without this primary means of interrealm travel, marauders and dark forces have exploited the instability. We find Thor, alongside his loyal companions, Lady Sif and the Warriors Three, Volstagg, Fandral, and Hogun, battling the marauders on Vanaheim. This specific conflict, showcases Thor's unwavering commitment to his duties as a prince of Asgard, demonstrating his formidable combat prowess and his leadership in restoring peace and stability to these troubled worlds. The fighting is fierce, a testament to the lingering unrest, but ultimately, Thor and his forces prevail, bringing a temporary calm to the region. This period of reestablishment of peace is crucial as it sets the stage for the unforeseen cosmic threat that is about to emerge. Back on Earth, Dr. Jane Foster, Thor's beloved astrophysicist, continues her groundbreaking research into cosmic anomalies, specifically focusing on gravitational fluctuations that suggest a rare celestial event known as the convergence. This convergence, a phenomenon occurring only once every 5,000 years, sees the nine realms align, creating temporary, unstable portals between them. During one of her investigations in an abandoned warehouse in London, she stumbles upon a site where the fabric of reality is thinning, exhibiting bizarre gravitational shifts and localized teleportation phenomena. Driven by scientific curiosity, she inadvertently steps through one of these nascent portals and is transported to an ancient, forgotten ruin, a place steeped in an otherworldly energy. It is here that she encounters the ether, a fluidic, reality altering substance that is one of the six infinity stones, specifically the reality stone. This ancient relic, dormant for millennia, senses her presence and, in a terrifying display of its power, infects her, merging with her very being. The ether, a relic of the Dark Elves, a race thought long extinct, begins to slowly consume her, causing her to exhibit strange powers and a general deterioration of her health. This activation of the ether has a profound and immediate consequence. It awakens the Dark Elves, led by their vengeful and ruthless leader, Malekith the Accursed, from their 5,000-year slumber. They had been in stasis, awaiting the next convergence, the opportune moment to unleash the ether's full destructive potential. Their ultimate goal is to plunge the entire universe back into eternal darkness, a state they believe is its natural and rightful condition. Malekith, driven by a deep-seated hatred for Asgard and a desire to reclaim his race's former glory, sees the convergence as their last chance to achieve this cosmic reset. He seeks to weaponize the ether to accomplish this monumental task, believing that by doing so, he will bring about a new era, one defined by the absence of light and life. Upon learning of Jane's affliction and sensing the grave danger she is in, Thor, against the advice of some Asgardian council members, brings her to Asgard for treatment. He believes the advanced medical technology and magical healing capabilities of his homeworld will be able to cure her. However, the Asgardian healers are baffled by the ether's nature, unable to separate it from Jane. It is Odin, the All-Father, who immediately recognizes the ether for what it is, an ancient, primordial force of immense power, and a relic of a war he himself fought against Malekith 5 millennia ago. He understands the profound danger it poses, not just to Jane, but to all of existence. He recounts the history of the Dark Elves and their previous attempt to use the ether to extinguish all light, a war that nearly cost Asgard everything. Odin, recognizing the ether's insidious nature, warns Thor of the catastrophic consequences should Malekith regain control of it. Malekith, sensing the ether's presence on Asgard, launches a devastating surprise attack on the Golden Realm. His forces, utilizing advanced Dark Elf technology and their formidable cursed warriors, Dark Elves transformed into super soldiers, breach Asgard's defenses, causing widespread destruction and chaos. His primary objective is to extract the ether from Jane, believing that with it, he can finally achieve his apocalyptic vision. During this brutal assault, tragedy strikes the royal family. Frigga, Thor's mother and Loki's adoptive mother bravely defends Jane from Malekith, showcasing her formidable magical abilities. In a desperate and heroic act of self sacrifice, she is killed by Malekith, a devastating blow to both Thor and surprisingly to Loki, who witnesses her death from his prison cell. This act of violence ignites a burning desire for vengeance in Thor and a deep, albeit complicated grief in Loki. Fueled by grief and a desperate need to stop Malekith, Thor, realizing that Asgard's conventional defenses are insufficient, makes a daring and controversial decision. He enlists the aid of his imprisoned brother Loki, knowing that Loki's cunning and knowledge of the hidden paths of Asgard could be their only hope. Together with Jane, they execute a daring escape from Asgard, utilizing a stolen dark elf skiff and navigating through secret passages and forgotten routes. Their plan is to confront Malekith on Svartalfheim, the homeworld of the Dark Elves, a desolate and dying realm. The rationale behind this strategy is to lure Malekith away from populated areas and confront him on his home turf, where the Aether's influence might be contained. During their perilous journey and subsequent confrontation on Svartalfheim, Loki, in a moment of apparent redemption and sacrifice, seemingly gives his life to save Thor from Malekith, falling victim to a cursed warrior's attack. This moment is a profound turning point for Thor, who believes his brother is truly gone, a victim of Malekith's cruelty. Despite the loss of Loki, Thor, now more determined than ever, pursues Malekith back to Earth, where the convergence is reaching its peak. The alignment of the 9 realms creates numerous unstable portals across London, causing objects and people to randomly teleport between realms. Malekith intends to unleash the Aether's full power at the focal point of the convergence, which he identifies as Greenwich. Thor, with the help of Jane, Dr. Eric Selvig, who has developed a device to detect and manipulate the portals, and Darcy Lewis, engages Malekith in a final, climactic battle amidst the chaos of the converging realms. Utilizing the unpredictable nature of the portals, Thor, in a brilliant tactical maneuver, transports Malekith to Svartalfheim through one of the portals. Malekith, disoriented and unable to escape, is then crushed by his own massive dark elf ship, which had also been pulled through a portal, effectively ending his reign of terror and preventing the universe from being plunged into eternal darkness. The Aether is subsequently contained, though its immense power remains a significant threat, prompting the Asgardians to entrust it to the care of the Collector, Tannelir Tevan, on Nowhere, believing it safer there than on Asgard itself. This decision, as we will see, has significant ramifications for the future of the cosmos. Transitioning from the cosmic aftermath of the Aether's containment, we move forward 2 years into the tumultuous events of 2014, where the stability of the modern world is once again threatened, this time from within. Our focus now shifts to Captain America, the Winter Soldier, a pivotal moment that irrevocably reshapes the global intelligence landscape. The film opens with Captain America, Steve Rogers, now an agent of SHIELD, leading a strike team alongside Natasha Romanoff, the Black Widow, and Brock Rumlow, a seemingly loyal SHIELD operative. Their mission: to rescue hostages from a pirated SHIELD vessel, the Lemurian Star. This seemingly straightforward operation, however, quickly reveals a deeper layer of deception. While Rogers is focused on the rescue, Romanoff, under Nick Fury's direct orders, extracts sensitive data from the ship's computers, a breach of trust that immediately raises Captain America's suspicions about SHIELD's true intentions and the increasingly murky moral lines they operate within. This incident highlights Rogers' growing discomfort with the post-9/11 world of espionage, where principles he fought for in World War II seem to have been eroded. He finds himself wrestling with the ethical ambiguities of preemptive action and surveillance, a stark contrast to the clear-cut battle lines of his past. The stakes escalate dramatically when Nick Fury, director of SHIELD and the architect of the Avengers initiative, is ambushed in Washington, D.C. by a mysterious, highly skilled assassin known only as the Winter Soldier. This encounter is brutal and efficient, leaving Fury seemingly assassinated, his vehicle riddled with bullets, and his body gravely wounded. The world, and indeed the audience, is led to believe that a key figure in global security has been eliminated. However, in a testament to his unparalleled strategic mind and deep-seated paranoia, Fury had anticipated such a threat. He fakes his death with the crucial assistance of Maria Hill, a loyal SHIELD agent who operates outside the compromised system. This elaborate deception allows Fury to go underground, operating in the shadows, free from the constraints and watchful eyes of those he now suspects. His death serves as a catalyst, forcing Captain America to confront the true nature of the threats around him without the direct guidance of his former superior. Captain America, now a fugitive himself and branded a traitor, begins to uncover the terrifying truth. Hydra, the Nazi science division he believed he had defeated decades ago, has not only survived, but has insidiously infiltrated SHIELD from its very inception. This revelation comes after he and Romanoff discover a hidden SHIELD bunker beneath Camp La Haye, the very training ground where Rogers became Captain America. Within this subterranean facility, they find the preserved consciousness of Arnim Zola, Hydra's chief scientist from World War II, now existing as an advanced artificial intelligence housed within a supercomputer. Zola, in a chilling monologue, explains how Hydra, like a parasitic organism, grew within SHIELD, subtly manipulating events, orchestrating conflicts, and eliminating rivals over decades. He reveals Project Insight, a terrifying initiative designed to launch 3 new helicarriers, equipped with advanced satellite-guided weaponry, capable of preemptively neutralizing millions of potential threats based on Zola's algorithm. This algorithm, designed to identify individuals who might oppose Hydra's global dominance, essentially targets anyone with the potential for independent thought or rebellion, effectively establishing a new world order through fear and control. The architect of this modern Hydra takeover is revealed to be Alexander Pierce, a highly respected and influential SHIELD official and a senior member of the World Security Council. Pierce, who had cultivated an image of unwavering patriotism and dedication, is exposed as a deep-cover Hydra leader, having risen through the ranks over decades, patiently executing Zola's long-term plan. His betrayal shakes Captain America to his core, demonstrating the profound depth of Hydra's infiltration and the sheer audacity of their scheme. Pierce embodies the insidious nature of this enemy, an enemy that hides in plain sight, leveraging trust and authority for its nefarious ends. The emotional core of the film arrives when Captain America confronts the Winter Soldier. In a brutal, hand-to-hand combat sequence, Rogers' shield is knocked away, and the Winter Soldier's mask is removed, revealing the shocking truth. The assassin is none other than Bucky Barnes, Steve's childhood best friend, who was presumed dead during World War II. This moment is devastating for Rogers, as the man he believed was gone has returned as a brainwashed, cybernetically enhanced weapon controlled by Hydra. The revelation adds a deeply personal layer to Captain America's fight, transforming a geopolitical struggle into a desperate attempt to save his friend from the clutches of his enemies. The Winter Soldier, through years of Hydra's brutal conditioning and memory wiping, is a ghost of his former self, a tragic figure caught between his past and his programming. In their desperate race against time to expose Project Insight, and prevent Hydra from launching the helicarriers. Captain America and Black Widow find a crucial ally in Sam Wilson, a former pararescue airman who now operates as Falcon, utilizing a specialized winged suit for aerial combat. Wilson, a veteran who understands the importance of fighting for what's right, joins their cause, providing invaluable aerial support and a much needed moral compass. Together, this unlikely trio races against the clock to expose Pierce's deception and dismantle Hydra's plan before it can be fully executed. Their mission is not just about stopping a terrorist plot, it's about tearing down the very institution that was supposed to protect the world. The climax sees SHIELD fall. Captain America, with the help of Falcon, Black Widow, and a now resurfaced Nick Fury, broadcasts Zola's confession and Pierce's involvement to the entire world, exposing Hydra's deep infiltration of SHIELD and the true nature of Project Insight. This act of transparency, while necessary, leads to the complete collapse of SHIELD as an organization, its credibility shattered beyond repair. The helicarriers are brought down, thwarting Hydra's plan for global domination, but at a significant cost. Nick Fury, having faked his death once again to avoid capture and continue his clandestine war against Hydra, goes truly underground, operating outside of any official capacity. A ghost in the system dedicated to rooting out the remaining Hydra cells. The world is left without its primary defense agency, a vacuum that will have far-reaching consequences. As the dust settles, Captain America, unable to abandon his friend, embarks on a new personal mission. He and Falcon pursue the Winter Soldier, who, after his confrontation with Rogers and the chaos of the helicarrier's destruction, begins to recall fragmented memories of his past as Bucky Barnes. These flashes of his former life, though incomplete and painful, signify a crack in Hydra's conditioning, offering a glimmer of hope for Bucky's redemption. This pursuit marks a significant shift for Captain America, moving him from a soldier fighting for a nation to a man fighting for his friend, a journey that will define much of his future. The events of Captain America, the Winter Soldier, leave the MCU in a state of profound uncertainty, with the global intelligence community in disarray and the threat of Hydra still lurking in the shadows, setting the stage for subsequent conflicts and the enduring personal struggles of its heroes. While Earth grappled with the fallout of Project Insight in 2014, the cosmic reaches of the galaxy were about to witness the formation of an unlikely team of heroes. Our timeline now shifts dramatically to the stars, specifically to the year 2014, for the vibrant and often chaotic adventures of the Guardians of the Galaxy. The narrative opens on the desolate, ancient planet of Morag, where a charismatic, retro music-loving scavenger named Peter Quill, known to himself and very few others as Star-Lord, is on a mission. Quill, a human abducted from Earth as a child in 1988, has become a notorious, if somewhat bumbling, outlaw operating across the cosmos. His target on Morag is a mysterious metallic orb, an artifact of immense power that has drawn the attention of various factions. He successfully infiltrates a long-abandoned temple, navigates its booby traps, and with a flourish of his Walkman and a dance, secures the orb. However, his triumph is short-lived, as Korath the Pursuer, a Kree fanatic and lieutenant to the formidable Ronan the Accuser, arrives with his forces, also seeking the orb. Quill, through a combination of luck, agility, and a well-placed shot from his quad blasters, manages to escape Morag with his prize, setting off a chain of events that will ripple across the galaxy. Quill's next stop is Xandar, the capital world of the Nova Empire, a vast intergalactic government dedicated to peace and order. His intention is to sell the orb for a substantial profit. However, his arrival on Xandar coincides with the presence of another skilled operative, Gamora. Gamora, an adopted daughter of the Mad Titan Thanos and a highly trained assassin, has been dispatched by Ronan to retrieve the orb. She confronts Quill in the bustling marketplace of Xandar, initiating a fierce struggle for possession of the artifact. Their altercation quickly escalates, drawing the attention of two bounty hunters also operating on Xandar. Rocket, a genetically engineered, highly intelligent, and notoriously sarcastic raccoon, and Groot, his loyal, tree-like, and monosyllabic companion. Rocket and Groot are after the bounty on Quill's head, and seeing the chaos, they attempt to apprehend him. The ensuing four-way brawl, a whirlwind of blaster fire, acrobatic combat, and Groot's extending limbs, causes significant public disturbance. This blatant disregard for Nova Corps regulations leads to all four individuals, Quill, Gamora, Rocket, and Groot, being swiftly apprehended by Nova Corps officers and subsequently incarcerated. Their destination is the Kiln, a high-security Nova Corps prison designed to hold the most dangerous criminals in the galaxy. It is within the stark, utilitarian confines of the Kiln that our unlikely protagonists are brought together. Here, they encounter Drax the Destroyer, a hulking, literal-minded warrior consumed by a singular desire for revenge. Drax's family was brutally murdered by Ronan the Accuser, and he vows to kill Ronan with his own hands. Gamora, being Ronan's associate, though secretly planning to betray him, immediately becomes a target for Drax's wrath. A tense confrontation ensues, only diffused by Quill's quick thinking and Rocket's pragmatic assessment of the situation. Rocket, ever the opportunist, devises an elaborate plan to escape the Kiln, seeing the potential for a lucrative partnership with Quill, Gamora, and even Drax. The five disparate individuals, united by their shared incarceration and the promise of a substantial reward for the orb, form a tenuous alliance. Their escape from the Kiln is a masterclass in Rocket's cunning, involving a series of meticulously planned diversions, the disabling of security systems, and a thrilling chase through the prison's various levels, culminating in their successful breakout aboard Quill's ship, the Milano. From the dawn of time with the Celestials and the creation of the Infinity Stones, through the rise of heroes and the fall of empires, to the branching realities born from a single choice, the Marvel Cinematic Universe has woven an intricate tapestry of interconnected narratives. Each film and series, meticulously placed, contributes to a grand saga of cosmic forces, human resilience, and the enduring battle between order and chaos, ultimately culminating in the profound implications of the sacred timeline's disruption. And that is the complete Marvel Cinematic Universe timeline.